Chapter 1937. Since Qin Wenyan dared to challenge him as the chieftain of the Divine Ox clan, what reason did he have to fear Qin Wenyan? The Ox chieftain stepped out, causing the entire space to tremble. Every step he took was like trampling on the hearts of everyone, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. He was originally someone from the Qin clan, Qin Yuanfeng's son, Qin Tiangong's grandson. He once became a god in the Boundless Sea region, easily suppressing the heavenly deities of the Qin clan. He once defeated Heaven's son Qin Dangtian head-on, catching up from behind. He solved the secret of the Heaven Vault and gained control of the strongest secret realm in the supreme ancient immortal realms, the Heaven Vault. He founded the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and became the sect leader of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. And now, he had another identity. He was the Saint Lord of the Battle Saint tribe, the hegemon of the desolate region from countless years ago. For this battle, he challenged the Ox chieftain of the Divine Ox clan. How could the people of the world not be filled with anticipation for such a battle? The Ox chieftain of the Divine Ox clan was already an expert at the peak of the hegemonic powers. Between him and Qin Wenyan, who would be stronger? The Ox chieftain stared at Qin Wenyan as he panted heavily. His large eyes flickered with coldness. He didn't say anything, he only let out a low roar as he soared into the air, flying towards the battlefield in the sky. Only by using Qin Wenyan's blood would they be able to wash away the humiliation of the Divine Ox clan. Also, as the Ox chieftain, he understood very clearly that this battle didn't merely concern glory. It concerned the fate of the Divine Ox clan. If he was defeated, the Divine Ox clan would become history in the desolate region. He naturally wouldn't be so foolish to think that Qin Wenyan, Luo Shenchuan, and the demon sovereigns came here purely to challenge his Divine Ox clan. Given the grudge between them, they would definitely want the Divine Ox clan to disappear from the desolate region forever. Qin Wenyan's white robes fluttered in the wind as he soared into the air. Although he didn't need to worry about the Divine Ox castle, there were still many spectators watching from afar. The aftershocks of a deity-level battle were too terrifying. If they fought on the ground, even the earth would collapse. It was unknown how many regions of the desolate region would be razed to the ground. In the air, amidst the clouds, the Ox chieftain's body expanded. He was the same as Qin Wenyan, transforming into a giant. He was like a true heavenly deity, lofty and lofty. A heavy pressure bore down, enveloping the entire sky. The surroundings were deathly silent. If someone came to the area where their pressure was released, they most probably would directly suffocate to death. The Ox chieftain took out a pitch-black long spear. This was the Ox god's long spear. At the tip of the long spear, azure and black energy interweaved and flowed, resembling a black hole of destruction. It was terrifying to the extreme. Boom! He took a small step forward and abruptly, an extreme pressure manifested in this space. In this space, the illusory silhouettes of several inconceivably gigantic Ox deities appeared, blotting out the sun and blocking out the starry space. These incomparably gigantic figures bore down on Qin Wenyan, causing him to find it hard to move. It was like he was carrying the weight of the entire heavens on his back. His legs felt extremely heavy, as though he couldn't even take a single step forward. The shadows of the Ox deities breathed out. Black fog enveloped the sky as they shot towards Qin Wenyan. This was a destructive current that could corrode and destroy everything. Qin Wenyan could sense the destructive might contained within. A dazzling radiance circulated around him as the power of his bloodline transformed into a beam of light, radiating out in all directions. It was as though he could break through the poison barrier, impenetrable by the myriad of techniques. He stood in the midst of the destructive black fog, unmoving and as calm as ever. The him now was no longer the same as before. He was no longer the young man he was in the past. He was a true heavenly deity with the aura of a supreme expert. He stood there like a god peering down at the world, like a sovereign descending from the heavens. The Ox chieftain brandished his Ox deity spear and pierced it towards Qin Wenyan. At this instant, numerous incomparably gigantic Ox deities' shadows stabbed out at the same time, locking down the sky, wanting to pierce through this space. There was nowhere to hide. And at this moment, Qin Wenyin was still enveloped by that stifling pressure. It was like he was carrying the entire sky on his back. The Tao of dimensional space unleashed its might. For a period of time, numerous dimensional black holes appeared around Qin Wenyin, containing a boundless world within. When the destructive spears shot over, the dimensional black holes transformed into terrifying vortexes that could devour everything, directly sucking them into the vortexes, causing them to be trapped within the boundless dimension. The expression of the Ox chieftain didn't change. It was like he had long expected this scene. He had personally witnessed Qin Wentian's strength before. Back then when he fought against Qin Wenyan, he was also present. If he could kill Qin Wenyan just like that, in that case, it would be impossible for Qin Wenyan to cause such a huge commotion in the supreme ancient immortal realms. At this moment, countless spears of darkness appeared, piercing through the sky. The Ox deity's shadows stabbed out, directly nailing them into the air. At this instant, Qin Wenyan had a feeling that this incomparably heavy space was locked down by the spears of darkness. This space was in danger of collapsing, and it was very possible that he would be buried here together with it. The Ox chieftain coldly laughed. The Ox god robe in his hand stabbed out as a terrifying might penetrated through everything, detonating all destructive energy. At this instant, the space sealed by the Ox god's shadow seemed to have been detonated. The frenzied destructive energy exploded forth, destroying everything. Even the boundless space was about to be buried. Even if they were in the void dimension, they would be destroyed together with the Ox god, having no way to escape. Qin Wenyan stared at this destroyed space. His eyes seemed to transform into a dimensional space. With a single glance, all the destructive energy in this space was sealed by his eye technique. A space-time sealing energy manifested, causing the destructive storm to be sucked into it. After that, it was sealed within and gradually dissipated. Naturally, there were still many waves of destructive energy rushing towards Qin Wenyan. He waved his sword, transforming it into a tempest, wanting to devour and shred everything apart. A heaven-shaking wave of destructive energy gradually dissipated into nothingness. The Ox chieftain coldly stared at Qin Wenyan. This young heavenly deity before him was much stronger compared to when he fought against Qin Dangtian back then. Regardless of his space-time sword Dao or his dimensional space-time Dao art, they were all much more powerful. It seemed like the sealing energy was gradually infused into his Dao art, making it harder and harder to deal with him. But the more it was so, the stronger the killing intent in the Ox chieftain's heart grew. His battle-intent soared even higher. Today, if he didn't kill Qin Wenyan, his divine Ox clan would be annihilated. There was no third path. Rumble! A thunderous sound rang out. The Ox chieftain transformed into an incomparably gigantic Kueox, radiating a towering baleful aura. He actually reverted to his true form. The divine Ox spear transformed into his horn, radiating a darkness intent of destruction. His eyes stared at Qin Wenyan, exuding a terrifying aura. It was like being stared at by his eyes was an extremely terrifying thing. Stepping on the ground, the heavens and earth became incomparably heavy. In the air, the shadows of countless Kueox appeared. Numerous Ox deities covered the entire sky. He was the Ox chieftain of the divine Ox clan. He was the Kueox god. He had his own innate talent. At this moment, the eyes of everyone below froze. When they inclined their heads and stared at the sky, they could only see countless Kueox silhouettes burying the heavens and earth. How could they contend against this? The Kueox silhouettes galloped forth, instantly causing the sky to collapse. The space around Qin Wenyan was completely buried. There was simply no path of retreat. The entire space was filled with the Kueox silhouettes. It was like he wasn't facing a single Kueox but rather a myriad of Ox deities. His opponent was none other than the Ox chieftain. When Qin Wenyan saw this scene, he released the power of his bloodline, transforming into a demonic divinity. Shadows of countless demonic divinities appeared as he released his astral soul. This caused the demonic eyes of the Ox chieftain to freeze. Back then, Qin Wenyan didn't release this astral soul. It was still an astral soul that originated from the 9 heavenly layers. As expected, Qin Wenyan didn't only have 12 astral souls. His astral souls seemed to be boundless. This astral soul was like a grand formation, capable of summoning the heavens. When this astral soul was released together with his bloodline talent, the countless demonic beast astral souls in the 9 heavenly layers seemed to sense it. After that, boundless divine light cascaded downwards as the shadow of numerous demonic divinities manifested around Qin Wenyan. For a period of time, the roars of millions of demonic divinities filled the air. All the greater demons were saint beasts. With a single roar, the entire sky trembled. "Kill!" Qin Wenyan roared. In an instant, the demonic divinities he summoned all rushed towards the soaring Kueox. The entire sky was instantly enveloped in a destructive might as rumbling sounds echoed through the air. Even for the powerful enemies that were boundlessly far away, everyone could feel the intense tremors as well as the violent demonic might. How crazy! Qin Wenyan possesses the bloodline of the Luotian clan and has the innate talent of rearing divinities. Now, he even has the ability to summon demonic divinities from the 9 heavenly layers to fight against the Ox Chieftain. The hearts of everyone were filled with shock. Even the people from the Divine Ox Castle felt their hearts pounding when they saw this scene. Initially, they were extremely confident in their Ox Chieftain. But when they saw the battle in the sky, their confidence started to waver. This genius whose name shook the supreme ancient immortal realms was simply too powerful. Ever since his identity was revealed, every time he acted, he would cause a huge commotion, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. In that case, was he planning to use the title of the Ox Chieftain to clear his name once more? Chapter 1938. In the violent air, demonic qi danced wildly. Qin Wenyan was like a demon god, exuding boundless magnificence, lording over everything under the heavens. The Ox Chieftain of the Divine Ox clan commanded countless Kuei bulls to gallop over. Qin Wenyan actually summoned countless greater demons to fight for him. It was like these 2 supreme demon gods were fighting for the position of the hegemon of all demons. In the boundless space, destructive energy ravaged the area. The Kuei bulls had no way to enter. Qin Wenyan was surrounded by countless greater demons, protecting him. He stood among the demon gods, appearing so outstanding. An incomparably gigantic Kuei bull stared at Qin Wenyan. His eyes were terrifying and extremely cold. He didn't expect Qin Wenyan to be so powerful to this extent. A terrifying baleful light flashed. The Ox Chieftain moved. That incomparably gigantic body of a Kuei ox rushed towards Qin Wenyan. Ahead of him, tens of thousands of Kuei oxen opened up a path, tearing everything apart. More and more demon gods rushed over, clashing against the charging ox deities. Gradually, the number of Kuei oxen that were opening up the path grew fewer and fewer. However, the Ox Chieftain didn't stop. His gigantic demonic eyes locked onto Qin Wenyan. The horn formed from the ox spear shone with a dark light. His speed abruptly increased as a gigantic Ox Chieftain appeared in the sky, locking down this entire space. Everywhere he passed by, the demon gods would be directly penetrated by his horns, disintegrating into nothingness. It was like even the demon gods in the sky had no way to block his attack. In his eyes, there was only Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan still stood there, not moving at all. His eyes stared at the gigantic Kuei ox rushing over. The Ox Chieftain of the Divine Ox clan seemed to have become even more violent, as though he had lost his patience. He wanted to rush over, wanting to kill Qin Wenyan directly to eliminate all future troubles. However, as the Ox Chieftain, he wasn't someone who would act rashly. He himself possessed terrifying strength, which was why he dared to act so brazenly, trampling on the heavens. Boom! The sky trembled violently, as if Qin Wenyan's heart trembled along with it. Boom boom boom. As the Ox Chieftain got closer, Qin Wenyan's heart pounded even more intensely, as though it was about to explode. Not only his heart, every other part of his body was trembling. A stifling pressure bore down on him like the heavens collapsing, causing him to be unable to move. The gigantic body of the Kuei ox was getting closer and closer, and the demonic glow in its eyes was becoming more and more demonic and terrifying. The body seemed to transform into a beam of destructive light, stabbing towards Qin Wenyan, wanting to pierce through Qin Wentian's body. When it got close, Qin Wentian had never felt such a powerful pressure before. This was one of the strongest opponents he had ever faced. Qin Wentian moved with great difficulty. He wanted to lift his feet, but he discovered that it was extremely difficult. Both his legs were twitching from the terrifying tremors and his hands were incomparably heavy. As the Ox chieftain fought in close combat, the power of his Dao art was also strengthened to the extreme. Even for Qin Wentian, it was hard for him to struggle free. At this moment, a layer of golden light appeared around Qin Wentian. This light illuminated the heavens and earth, like the Tao of eternity descending from the heavens. At this instant, the entire sky seemed to have fallen into a golden spatial world. The endless flowing lines were like the power of a seal. The flickering golden frame was like the supreme power of space. The flowing power was like the power of time. The Ox chieftain's speed grew slower and slower, like he had fallen into a golden space-time swamp. The body of the Kuei ox that followed him froze there, unable to move. It roared and struggled frenziedly, but it had no way to break free. This was like an absolute space, containing an incomparable amount of Tao energy within. It was a fusion of all the different types of energy Qin Wentian had in the past, using it to the extreme. Absolute imprisonment. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. The golden light grew even more resplendent and everything seemed to come to a halt. Not only for the Ox chieftain, even Qin Wentian's body seemed to have stopped as well. In that space, time no longer flowed. Even with how powerful the Ox chieftain was, he also froze at this instant. He was like an incomparably gigantic statue of a Kuei ox, extremely vivid and lifelike. How powerful must the Tao energy be to be able to cause the Ox chieftain to be unable to resist it and be directly sealed there? Below, the gazes of countless experts froze there. Even Luo Shenchuan and the demon sovereigns had looks of shock on their faces. They didn't know of Qin Wentian's improvement during these years and didn't know how strong Qin Wentian's Tao was now. However, he seemed to be able to condense different astral souls. His Tao energy was able to grow stronger unceasingly, becoming more perfect. At this moment, Qin Wentian caused this entire space to be locked down. This was absolute power. Even the powerful Ox chieftain was locked down like a golden statue. This was too terrifying. If they were the ones facing Qin Wentian, would they be able to resist such a Tao? Everything in the space was sealed, but the Tao energy seemed to be everywhere, flowing formlessly. The eyes of the Ox chieftain flashed with fear. His Tao energy was completely suppressed at this moment and he had no way to break out of this situation. This sort of passively waiting was like waiting for Qin Wentian's judgment. Such a feeling was simply too painful. Strands of Tao might flowed in this absolute space, sealing life, sealing space-time. The Ox chieftain only felt his will to resist growing weaker and weaker. His body trembled slightly as he let out a low-sounding roar. But after that, he stopped. His eyes stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. At this moment, Qin Wentian didn't seem to be in a good state either. He was doing his best to control the energy of his Tao art and was also like a statue. The two of them seemed to have transformed into eternal statues, standing in the air, as though they would never move again. Time slowly flowed by. The Ox chieftain made some minute movements, but as time flowed by, he didn't move at all. In fact, his gaze gradually turned listless. Nobody knew what he was thinking about at this moment, and nobody knew what terrifying things he was experiencing. The hearts of the people from the Divine Ox clan sped up. They were incomparably nervous, but no one dared to save the Ox chieftain. Even heavenly deities didn't dare to, because Luo Shenchuan and the heavenly deities of the Demon God Mountain were still guarding above their heads. Under such a great disparity in strength, if they dared to save the Ox chieftain, they would definitely die. Today, would their Divine Ox clan truly face their doomsday? Many Kuei Ox experts felt unease and fear in their hearts. After a very long time, finally, the golden light gradually dissipated. The absolute imprisonment relaxed. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. A look of fatigue could be seen on his face. Earlier he had been constantly releasing his Tao energy to suppress the Ox chieftain, causing him to have no way to struggle free. Not only that, he was also constantly taking away the Ox Chieftain's life. At this moment, the Ox Chieftain seemed to have transformed into a statue. He fell down from the sky, causing sonic booms to ring out. The boundlessly vast body of the Ox Chieftain directly crumbled from the impact. That gigantic body, the body of the Ox Chieftain, landed in the Divine Ox Clan. He was like a majestic and eternal statue. But they knew that not long ago he was still the unexcelled Ox Chieftain of the Divine Ox Clan, an incomparably powerful heavenly deity. How could this be possible? Countless experts from the Divine Ox Clan didn't dare to believe this result. Their Ox Chieftain was defeated and even his life was taken away. Qin Wenyan descended from the sky. He took out a black wooden cudgel and smashed it towards the Ox Chieftain like a heavenly deity descending to the mortal world. A deafening boom rang out as the Ox Chieftain shuddered. After that, it completely lost all signs of life. Qin Wenyan actually added another strike because he knew what had happened. He knew that earlier, he didn't truly kill the Ox Chieftain. Such a powerful existence was too difficult to kill. He had to make sure that he didn't leave behind any future troubles. The Divine Ox Clan is tyrannical, causing chaos in the desolate region. Back then, they used despicable methods to destroy the Battle Saint tribe. Today, as the Saint Lord of the Battle Saint tribe, I brought the Battle Saint tribe leader here to destroy the Divine Ox Clan. Qin Wenyan calmly spoke. Within the Divine Ox Castle, countless roars of rage abruptly rang out. Qin Wenyan's words were like sentencing them to death. Qin Wenyan wanted the Divine Ox Clan to no longer exist in the supreme ancient immortal realms. An intense battle erupted in the Divine Ox Castle. In this battle, countless people died. The Divine Ox Clan was purged from the desolate region. Qin Wenyan and the others all left. When the people who came later arrived at the Divine Ox Castle, they only saw a stretch of ruins. After Qin Wenyan and the others left, countless silhouettes appeared in the ruins. At this moment, they were all quietly standing there, feeling endless emotions in their hearts. This was the Divine Ox Clan that had stood at the peak of the desolate region for countless years. But now they had become the dust of history. They had personally witnessed the destruction of a peak power. The news of what happened in the desolate region swiftly circulated through the 8 regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms, entering the ears of everyone. Countless people felt their hearts trembling. The destruction of a peak power was sufficient to cause the entire supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble. This time around, not only was the Divine Ox Clan destroyed, there was another matter that caused people's backs to turn cold. Qin Wenyan killed the Ox Chieftain of the Divine Ox Clan. How powerful was he now? Many peak powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms felt uneasy. This time around, Qin Wenyan used the name of the Battle Saint tribe to take revenge. Maybe it was because he didn't want to touch the sensitive nerves of the other peak powers. But since an incomparably powerful demon race was destroyed, how could the other peak powers remain calm? In the immortal realms, a sense of panic permeated the air. Naturally, there were also many crazy thoughts. Chapter 1939. After the Divine Ox Clan was destroyed, there were no more hegemonic powers in the desolate region. The Luotian clan was split up. One faction was in the Qin Heavenly Divine sect while the other faction migrated. The Demon God Mountain was also in the Qin Heavenly Divine sect. Hence, the current interesting situation was created. The vast and boundless desolate region actually had no hegemonic powers guarding it. Hence, the various experts contended for supremacy, causing chaos to descend upon the desolate region. In the lower world ruled by the desolate region, many years ago, an extremely powerful and mysterious power suddenly appeared in a city and settled down there. No one knew where they came from. They were all very low profile, but there were people who probed them before. The strength of these people was unfathomably deep. This power was none other than the hegemonic power of the desolate region, the Luotian clan. Naturally, this was only one faction. This faction was controlled by Luotian Mu. Right now, there was a strange atmosphere in the Luotian clan. Many people from the Luotian clan suddenly mentioned that they wanted to return to the supreme ancient immortal realms. They weren't willing to stay in such a weak place. Naturally, the reason why they had such thoughts was because they received news recently. Although the Luotian clan had migrated, it was impossible for them to not leave any people behind in the supreme ancient immortal realms. During these years, many major events happened in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Not long ago, the divine Ox clan of the desolate region was destroyed. They were killed by the son of their former princess, Luotian Qianxue, Qin Wenin. That power that once humiliated the Luotian clan was razed to flat ground and their name was erased from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Not only so, the powerful Qin clan that was once unexcelled in the world, slaughtering their way into the Luotian clan to threaten them, was now facing a calamity. Many years ago, Qin Wenin once headed to the Qin clan to ruin the marriage between Heaven's son Qin Dangtian and goddess Nikang. After that, he defeated Heaven's son. His grandfather Qin Tiangang traversed through time and arrived here, suppressing the Qin cauldron eternally in the chaotic flow of time. Several heavenly deities of the Qin clan died. Different from the Qin clan and divine Ox clan, the Luotian clan led by Qin Wendian and Luotian Chuan now had a glorious era. They established the Qin heavenly divine sect and cultivated in the heaven vault. It was said that several heavenly deities were born there and the battle saint tribe returned. Qin Wendian became their saint lord. Right now, the entire supreme ancient immortal realms feared Qin Wenin and the Qin heavenly divine sect he established. In the great hall of the Luotian clan, many experts gathered here. However, they were currently having a discussion. I feel that we should return. The Heaven Vault is a secret realm that can nurture heavenly deities. It's said that Qin Wentian's subordinates have already produced several heavenly deities. An old man spoke. They truly didn't want to miss out on such an opportunity. Don't forget how we treated Qin Wentian in the past. It's fine if he doesn't feel jealousy or hatred, but do you think that Qin Wentian would allow us to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation? Someone argued. Back then, the entire Luotian clan came to an agreement, rejecting Qin Wentian. When the Qin clan descended, only Luotian Chuan protected him. Right now, aren't the people of the Luotian clan still cultivating in the Heaven Vault? After all, their bloodlines are the same and they are all close relatives. Qin Wentian's maternal grandfather and uncle are still alive. If we are willing to apologize, there shouldn't be any problems. Clearly, there were some people who wanted to return to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even if they submitted, it was fine as long as they could enter the Heaven Vault to cultivate. Below, the sounds of argument rang out unceasingly. However, the number of people wanting to return to the supreme ancient immortal realms was extremely high. Enough. Luo Shenmu sat on the host's seat as he berated. His expression was cold. The people of the Luotian clan could return. Maybe Qin Wentian might accept them as well. But what about him, Luo Shenmu? He was someone who fought against Luotian Chuan for the position of clan leader. He was also someone who joined forces with Luotian Chuan to split the Luotian clan. They have fought for many years, and back then when the Qin clan descended, he strongly opposed Luotian Chuan protecting Qin Wentian. The Heaven Vault might accept anyone, but it was impossible for Luo Shenmu to do so. Once they returned, the Luotian clan would once again fall under Luotian Chuan's control. Most probably, Luo Shenmu only had a single path left. In the future, I don't wish to hear such arguments again. My Luotian clan doesn't need to depend on others to survive. Luo Shenmu coldly spoke. Many people turned their gazes to him, especially for those who wanted to return. Right now, their gazes were no longer filled with respect for Luo Shenmu. Clan leader, there are some words that I shouldn't say. But now that our Luotian clan has fallen to such a state, I have to say it out loud. An old man calmly spoke. Once, we supported Luotian Chuan to govern the Luotian clan because we wanted the Luotian clan to grow stronger and stronger under Luotian Chuan's leadership. But in truth, after Luotian Chuan took control of the Luotian clan, Luotian Chuan only suffered humiliation. In fact, he even had to migrate to a particle world. Our peak power of the desolate region has fallen to such a state. As for Luotian Chuan and the others, All the humiliation the Luotian clan suffered was because of them, and they grew stronger and stronger. One day, it doesn't matter if our Luotian clan still exists or not. The people of the world will forget about us. The Luotian clan will only have the Luotian clan of the supreme ancient immortal realms. These words resonated with many people. After so many years, they had witnessed many things. It was impossible for them to not feel any resentment. But now, their resentment finally erupted. Luotian Mu's expression turned ashen. He stared at everyone, and many people were staring at him. There was no longer the respect and reverence they had in the past. It was like they were all blaming him for the decline of the Luotian clan. However, was this really the case? If it wasn't for the appearance of Qin Wenyan, would the Luotian clan that was led by Luotian Chuan be able to rise up? He didn't lose to Luotian Chuan but lost to a junior, the son of Luotian Qianxue. It was said that not long ago, Qin Wenyan killed the Ox chieftain of the Divine Ox clan. From this, one could very well imagine how strong Qin Wenyan was now. If you guys want to return, just do so. I won't stop you. Luotian Mu calmly spoke. After that, he stood up and left, leaving behind everyone who exchanged mutual glances. If these experts really returned, they would feel some trepidation. Would Qin Wenyan and Luotian Chuan really accept them? The changes in the Luotian clan were clearly caused by the destruction of the Divine Ox clan in the desolate region. Also, the repercussions from this battle far surpassed that. Many hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms felt a sense of danger. There were actually many powers heading to the Pure Land of Bliss in the universe region, entering the Buddhist world. They naturally didn't head there to seek enlightenment from the Buddhas. Rather, they wanted the Buddhist sects to act. In an ancient temple in the Pure Land of Bliss, an esteemed monk received the heavenly deities of some of the hegemonic powers. The heavenly deities were all extremely polite to the Buddhist cultivators here. At this moment, in a plain-looking ancient temple, many heavenly deities were simply sitting on praying mats. Although my Buddhist sect pursues the great Tao, I believe that we won't be embroiled in the chaos of war. I also understand the purpose of everyone's visit. However, I'm afraid I'm helpless. A reverend in a kasaya pressed his palms together as he spoke to the people here. The Pure Land of Bliss is untainted by the mortal world. We naturally understand this. Within the Pure Land of Bliss, all the reverends are people of virtue and don't like conflict. However, the current situation in the supreme ancient immortal realms isn't stable. Qin Wenyan has provoked deity-level battles multiple times, and the battle at the Divine Ox Castle caused countless lives to be lost. How many lives were there in the supreme ancient immortal realms? He is like a butcher, his hands are stained with blood. A heavenly deity calmly spoke. He pressed his palms together. The Buddhist sect is merciful. How can we allow a vile character to continue causing chaos in the supreme ancient immortal realms? In addition, the Pure Land of Bliss also pursues the great Tao. In the Heaven Vault, one can sense the Buddhic constellations at a close distance. It would surely be extremely beneficial to the Reverend's cultivation. Right now, Qin Wenyan has occupied the Heaven Vault for himself and would frequently provoke war. I'm afraid he wants to destroy all the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms, allowing him to reign supreme. Benefactor Qin doesn't seem to be a vile character. As long as everyone doesn't push him too far, there wouldn't be a war in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Reverend calmly spoke. He naturally had his own plans. The times now are different from the past. Right now, Qin Wenyan's strength is growing stronger and stronger. His ambitions are exposed and he is relying on the Heaven Vault to do whatever he wants. The Divine Ox clan is a good example. Reverends from the Pure Land of Bliss don't care about worldly affairs, but I'm sure you all understand everything that happened in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Another heavenly deity spoke. The expression of the heavenly deity was as calm as ever. No one could tell what he was thinking. The Heaven Vault is a place of chaos. If it is opened to the world, I'm afraid it would be hard to avoid the conflicts in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Reverend calmly spoke. The eyes of the heavenly deities flashed as they cursed silently in their hearts. After that, one of them spoke. the Heaven Vault can be controlled by the Buddhist sect and won't be fully open to the public. The Buddhist sect can choose some people from the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms to enter for cultivation. In this case, I'm sure there wouldn't be any conflicts. As the sound of his voice faded, the eyes of that reverend brightened. He stared at the heavenly deity and asked, if this is the case, would the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms act against our Buddhist sect? How would we dare to? The Buddhist sect is extremely prestigious and has existed for countless years in the universe region. They are existences of faith in the supreme ancient immortal realms. If the Buddhist sect controls the Heaven Vault, the hegemonic powers would be able to feel at ease. Someone spoke. Although he didn't mean what he said, his words were incomparably honest. That reverend frowned slightly, as though he was still unwilling. If our Buddhist sect interferes, wouldn't it be considered as forceful usurpation? How can that be? Qin Wenyan himself has already occupied the Heaven Vault. The Buddhist sect would be the one to uphold justice. This is what everyone wants. The various heavenly deities all spoke up. There was already a supreme tier existence in the supreme ancient immortal realms, the Buddhist sect. At the very least, they mustn't allow it to appear again. Qin Wenyan, the Qiankuan sect, Nine Heavens Mystical Palace. If they also became supreme tier existences, it would be a calamity for them. They would rather the Buddhist sect control the Heaven Vault than allow Qin Wenyan to continue growing. If that happened, it would be too dangerous for them. As for the Pure Land of Bliss, they were originally already a supreme tier power. Even if they controlled the Heaven Vault, it was nothing much. No matter what, it would be more beneficial to them compared to Qin Wenyan controlling the Heaven Vault. In addition, it was impossible for Qin Wenyan to allow them to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. However, the Buddhist sect had this hope. Chapter 1940. In the Qin Heavenly Divine sect, Qin Wenyan also knew that his act of destroying the Divine Ox clan would cause the other hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms to feel trepidation. After the Divine Ox clan was destroyed, he had been observing the situation in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Although the strength in the Heaven Vault was already sufficiently strong, Qin Wenyan didn't feel that he had reached the stage where he was invincible. If the other hegemonic powers could cast aside their selfishness and join forces to deal with him, the strength he had now was still insufficient. The entire supreme ancient immortal realms was simply too powerful. However, the other hegemonic powers also had trepidation and didn't dare to act recklessly. Also, the hegemonic powers weren't in an alliance and it was inevitable for them to have their own selfish motives. For example, during the war against the Qin clan in the past, the other hegemonic powers only watched from the sidelines. They only acted when they felt that their benefits were at stake. Many heavenly deities from the Qin clan died, but none of them interfered. Qin Wenyan, who was waiting for news, didn't receive any invasions from the various hegemonic powers. Instead, he received news that many heavenly deities from the various hegemonic powers actually headed to the same place, the universe region. Within the Qin Heavenly Divine sect, the Qiankuan sect leader and the Nine Heavens Mystical Maiden found Qin Wenyan. The three of them sat down in a pavilion. You should have heard some news, right? The Qiankuan sect leader spoke to Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan nodded lightly. Actually, after we formed an alliance and entered the Heaven Vault to cultivate, there has always been a hegemonic power that didn't interfere. I'm sure you have also noticed it. Right now, many heavenly deities have gone to the Buddha sect in the universe region to pay a visit. The Qiankuan sect leader's eyes flashed with worry. During these years, many experts of his Qiankuan sect had great improvements in their cultivation in the Heaven Vault. There were even some who started to break through to the deity realm. With such a cultivation environment, the Qiankuan sect naturally hoped to be able to enter the Heaven Vault at any time. Because they protected Qin Wenyan not because of friendship but because of mutual benefits. The Heaven Vault could allow their Qiankuan sect to grow stronger. In the future, they would be able to stand at the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. He also hoped that the Qiankuan sect could be like the Western world, passing down their inheritance eternally. Will Buddhism intervene? Qin Wenyan asked. There's no power that can ignore the heaven vault. Although the Western world is already strong enough, who would be able to reject becoming stronger? The Qinkuan sect leader slowly spoke. That's a supremely terrifying power. Before this, they didn't interfere, but no one knows what they are thinking in their hearts. The reason why the Buddhist sect is able to survive for countless years, far more ancient compared to any other major powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms, isn't because of compassion or standing aloof from worldly affairs. Rather, it's because they have incomparable strength that no one can shake. The Nine Heavens mystical maiden calmly spoke. Regarding this point, even if she didn't say it, Qin Wendian was very clear about it. In the world of stellar martial cultivators, strength was the foundation of everything. The Pure Land of Bliss in the Western world has existed ever since the supreme ancient immortal realms were divided into 8 regions. Up until now, no one could shake their position. The other 7 regions have long changed eras. Only the Buddhist sect has eternally remained in the Western world. Countless people in the Western world believed in the Buddhist Tao. Back then, the Qinkuan sect leader and Qin Wendian had discussed this before. If there were still God King-level existences in the supreme ancient immortal realms, there was a high possibility that they would be in the Western world. In that case, what would happen if the Western world interfered? Qin Wendian stared at the two of them. It's hard to protect the heaven vault. The Qinkuan sect leader spoke. He was the leader of a peak power in the heaven region. Right now, he was allies with Qin Wendian, but he still said such words. This wasn't because he was belittling himself. It was because he knew how terrifying the Western world was. That mysterious place had foundations that far surpassed any power in the supreme ancient immortal realms. If the Western world wasn't strong, the heavenly deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms wouldn't have gone there to pay a visit, wanting to invite the Buddhist sect to deal with the Qin heavenly divine sect. Do the two of you have any suggestions? Qin Wendian muttered to himself for a moment before he spoke again. The Qinkuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden exchanged mutual glances. Worry could be seen in the depths of their eyes. The Qinkuan sect leader then spoke. If the people from the Western world come to the Qin heavenly divine sect, you can choose to take a step back and allow the cultivators of the Western world to enter the heaven vault freely. Qin Wendian's eyes flashed when he heard the Qinkuan sect leader's words. From the attitude of these two hegemonic characters, it was clear that they were extremely wary of the Western world. In order to avoid conflict with the Western world, they wanted him to compromise. If the people from the Western world came to the Qin heavenly divine sect, he would allow them to enter the heaven vault for cultivation. This went against Qin Wendian's style of doing things. He said before that he would allow anyone he wanted to enter the heaven vault. There was no need to say anything more about the Luotian clan. He once had a period of friendship with the demon god Mountain. The Qinkuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace were in an alliance and had once stood together with him during the war against the Qin clan. As for the Buddhist sect, this would have to depend on whether the experts from the Western world would really interfere or not. If they did, what attitude would they use? Saint Lord. At this moment, a voice drifted over. It was Chiyu. Uncle Yu, what's the matter? Qin Wendian asked. Outside the divine sect, a heavenly deity from the Western world has come to pay a visit. Chiyu spoke. Qin Wendian's eyes flashed. He didn't expect that the other party would actually come when they were just discussing this matter. Their speed was truly fast. The three of them exchanged mutual glances. After that, Qin Wendian's divine sense extended into the distance, instantly enveloping this boundless region and arriving at the sea region outside the Qin heavenly divine sect. A figure floated in the air, quietly standing there. His entire body was incomparably calm, quiet, and peaceful, like he wasn't someone from the mortal world. 7 abstinences. Qin Wendian's eyes flashed. The reverend who came to pay a visit was none other than 7 abstinences who once entered the world of reincarnation with him. This person's talent was extremely high, and after stepping out of the world of reincarnation, he was the first person to ascend to the heavenly deity realm. Right now, the Buddhist sect actually wanted him to pay a visit. Reverend 7 Abstinences is here personally. Come over and take a seat. Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice. 7 abstinences pressed his palms together and nodded in the direction of Qin Wenyan. After that, his body floated up and flew over. The Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden didn't leave either. Qin Wenyan told them to stay here and listen. He wanted to see what the Western world's attitude was. A moment later, Reverend 7 abstinences came over. He placed one hand before his chin and bowed. After that, he spoke, 7 abstinences pays my respects to the sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden. The Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden were both hegemonic characters whose names shook an entire region. As elders, they were naturally worthy of this bow. The 2 of them nodded to 7 abstinences and returned the greeting. 7 abstinences then turned to Qin Wenyan. Benefactor Qin, after we parted in the past, I didn't expect Benefactor Qin to have such accomplishments today. It's truly commendable. Reverend praises me too much. Back then in the world of reincarnation, I've seen Reverend's glory. After that, I heard that Reverend has ascended to the heavenly deity realm and was deeply moved by Reverend's talent. It has been so many years since we last met, I'm sure Reverend has already reached the peak. Qin Wenyan smiled as he replied, Reverend, please take a seat. Many thanks. 7 abstinences nodded. He wasn't polite and sat down opposite of Qin Wenyan. He then turned his gaze to Qin Wenyan. I'm sure Benefactor Qin has already guessed my purpose for coming here today, right? I know a little, but I don't know everything. I was just thinking of seeking guidance from Reverend. Qin Wenyan smiled. Back then, Benefactor Qin unraveled the secret of the Heaven Vault and became the sole controller of the Heaven Vault. Many experts in the supreme ancient immortal realms coveted it, and after that, several deity-level wars broke out and countless people died. The Divine Ox clan was even completely annihilated. Before this, many experts from the various powers headed to the Western world to seek an audience with my master. They felt that if this matter isn't resolved quickly, an even greater storm would be created in the future. It's unknown how many people would die in the storm. My master also agreed and knew that Benefactor Qin and I are fated. Hence, he ordered me to make a trip here. Reverend 7 abstinences slowly spoke. Qin Wenyan quietly listened. After that, he asked, in that case, the Western world wants to interfere in the matters of the Heaven Vault. I wonder how the Reverend from the Buddhist sect intends to resolve this matter? This was the main point. What was the Western world's purpose? The Qiankuan sect leader and the 9 heavens mystical maiden both turned their gazes to 7 abstinences. Clearly, they wanted to know as well. My master's intention is that in order to avoid conflict and chaos in the supreme ancient immortal realms, the Heaven Vault should be temporarily controlled by the Buddhist sect. After that, we will see if we can arrange for the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. 7 abstinences' voice was calm, as though he was compassionate. In order to avoid conflict and chaos in the supreme ancient immortal realms? Qin Wenyan smiled when he heard 7 abstinences' words. He then spoke, Senior from the Buddhist sect is compassionate. I, Qin, am extremely impressed. It's just that this Heaven Vault was obtained by me. God King Shi's inheritance is on me and it belongs to me. Doesn't Reverend feel that it's a little inappropriate to hand it over to the Buddhist sect? Qin Wenyan smiled. If the Buddhist sect wanted to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation, there might be room for negotiation. Up until now, the Buddhist sect has never had any conflict with him. He wasn't someone who would be selfish. However, the Buddhist sect's intention was for him to hand over the Heaven Vault completely. The Buddhist sect would be the one to decide who could enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. In this case, with the Buddhist sect controlling the Heaven Vault, it would instantly determine the situation of the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Buddhist sect was truly very compassionate. The supreme ancient immortal realms has been peaceful for many years. If a war breaks out, I'm afraid the lives of the people would be plunged into misery and suffering. It's unknown how many people would die. Also, does Benefactor Qin really think that you can contend against the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms? If you do this, to both parties, to the entire supreme ancient immortal realms, it would be the best. Reverend Seven Abstinences calmly spoke. His tone was so calm as though he was speaking of an extremely simple matter. He was thinking for the sake of the entire supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wenyan stared at Seven Abstinences as a faint smile flashed in his eyes. Today, he finally gained a certain understanding of the Buddhist sect in the Western world. Chapter 1941. Reverend, is the purpose of your visit today because you want me, Qin, to hand over the heaven vault to the Western world? Qin Wenyan felt some anger in his heart. Anyone would feel extremely unhappy when faced with such an impolite request. The Buddhist sect wanted to expel him with a single sentence, replacing him and taking control of the heaven vault, allowing the Buddhist sect to decide who could enter the heaven vault for cultivation. However, what sort of character was Qin Wenyan now? Reverend Seven Abstinences was incomparably calm when he spoke. Qin Wenyan naturally wouldn't reveal his emotions so easily. When Seven Abstinences heard Qin Wenyan's words, he pressed his palms together and didn't say anything. This could be considered a tacit agreement. Although his words were tactful, saying that he didn't wish for the people of the supreme ancient immortal realms to be plunged into misery and suffering, in truth, his meaning was the same as Qin Wenyan's words. He wanted Qin Wenyan to hand over the heaven vault. Also, from the start to the end, Reverend Seven Abstinences didn't say a single threatening word. Everyone knew how powerful the Western world was. Reverend Seven Abstinences simply came here to show his attitude. There was no need for any threats. The power of words, how could it be compared to the power of one's own strength? Reverend, please return. Qin Wenyan smiled. Reverend Seven Abstinences inclined his head and stared at Qin Wenyan. After that, he stood up and pressed his palms together. Benefactor Qin, these two seniors will take my leave. After speaking, Seven Abstinences turned and departed. Everything happened in an extremely calm manner. There was no conflict at all. Both sides' performances were extremely terrifying, but the hidden meaning behind all of this was definitely a tempest. Undoubtedly, Qin Wenyan's expulsion order was a rejection of the Buddhist sect's request. The Western world was powerful, but they wanted him to hand over the heaven vault with a single sentence? What did this mean? The Qinkuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden had bitter smiles on their faces when they saw Seven Abstinences' departing figure. The Western world was truly interested in the heaven vault. This wasn't simply because of the visits from the various hegemonic powers. It was because the Buddhist sect had such intentions as well. If not, given the personality of the Buddhist sect, who could force them to do things they didn't want to do? How could they be swayed with just a few words? It's a little troublesome. The Qinkuan sect leader sighed in a low voice, feeling that things weren't too good. Although Reverend Seven Abstinences was very polite from the start to the end and even addressed him as a senior, how could things end so easily after rejecting the Western world's request? The beautiful eyes of the Nine Heavens mystical maiden flashed with a look of worry. Seems like the Western world wanted to interfere in the matter of the heaven vault. If the Buddhist sects made a move, what would they do? Sect leader, Fairy, let's continue. Qin Wenyan said with a smile as he raised his wine cup. He seemed to be at ease, but in fact, how could he not know what kind of situation he might face? But what could he do? Could it be that he had to leave the heaven vault with his tail between his legs because of a single sentence from the Buddhist sect? In addition, did they really think everything would be fine after they left the heaven vault? Without the natural barrier of the heaven vault, would the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms really spare him so easily? If he had such thoughts, he could only say that he was too naive. It was unknown who intentionally circulated the news of Reverend Seven Abstinences heading to the Qin Heavenly Divine sect to pay a visit. For a period of time, the people of the supreme ancient immortal realms felt that a new storm was about to arrive. The powerful Western world also wanted to interfere in the heaven vault. They wanted Qin Wenyan to hand over the heaven vault and allow the Buddhist sect to control it. However, Qin Wenyan rejected their request. After the people from the various peak powers received this news, they were naturally very happy. When they went to pay a visit to the Western world, they had already dug a huge pit for Qin Wenyan. They used the name of the Buddhist sect to ask the Western world to mediate this matter, and the Buddhist sect wouldn't reject them. But as long as the Western world interfered, no matter if Qin Wenyan agreed or not, his ending would definitely not be good. Right now, he actually rejected the Western world's request. Once, there were also peak powers who rejected the Western world's request. In the end, only some of the peak characters knew of some secrets. Even the ancient records didn't dare to record this matter. History was written by people, and a lot of history had been hidden. However, some of the top powers that had been passed down from ancient times still knew some things through the generations. Countless years ago, the power that rejected the Buddhist sect was much stronger compared to the power Qin Wenyan controlled now. But as for the ending, everyone in the world knew about it. However, no one dared to mention this matter together with the Buddhist sect. This was a taboo in the world. The people of the world didn't dare to mention it, the ancient records didn't dare to record it. Up until now, the people of the world had no idea about this matter. After that, there was news that Reverend 7 abstinences of the Buddhist sect went to the mystic region. He actually went to the Tiandao Sacred Academy to pay a visit. Someone said that it was because he wanted to pay a visit to the headmaster of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Reverend 7 abstinences of the Western world didn't have a deep connection with the Tiandao Sacred Academy. The only time he came to the Tiandao Sacred Academy was because he wanted to comprehend the Tao in the world of reincarnation. But if it was because of that matter, he wouldn't have waited so many years to pay a visit. As for seeking the Tao, there was no need for him to do so. Everyone guessed that right now, Reverend 7 abstinences' strength might have already surpassed the 3 heavenly deities of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. In that case, there was only one possibility. It was because of the matter regarding the Heaven Vault. Back then during the battle against the Qin clan, Headmaster Yi of the Tiandao Sacred Academy had acted to help Qin Wenyan. Maybe, the Buddhist sect wanted to settle the matter regarding the Tiandao Sacred Academy first. This was a form of respect to the headmaster of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. As for whether Reverend 7 abstinences met with Headmaster Yi or not, no one knew. They also didn't know what happened to Reverend 7 abstinences in the Sacred Academy. After Reverend 7 abstinences headed to the Tiandao Sacred Academy, another 2 heavenly deities walked out from the Buddhist sect. They headed to the Qiankuan sect and 9 Heavens Mystical Palace, respectively. These 2 hegemonic powers could be said to be the 2 strongest powers by Qin Wentian's side. If the Qiankuan sect and 9 Heavens Mystical Palace were excluded, Qin Wenyan would be alone with no reinforcements. Only a few heavenly deities from the Luotian clan and Demon God Mountain would be able to help him. At that time, when he had to face the experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms, the consequences could very well be imagined. It was clear that the Buddhist sect and the Western world had begun their operation without a sound or a trace. The divine sect in the Boundless Sea region, as well as the Heaven Vault in the air above the divine sect, seemed to have become the center of the storm. Right now, there was no one ruling the desolate region. The 3 hegemonic powers no longer existed, and the desolate region entered an era of competition. Many major powers were contending for supremacy in the desolate region. At this moment, in a desolate land, there was a vast stretch of mountains and valleys. Humans and demonic beasts could be seen everywhere. There was no end in sight. The entire mountain range was covered by the demonic beasts. Experts were as common as the clouds, and they belonged to different factions. A heavy pressure permeated the air. It seemed that a battle was about to erupt. At this moment, the black clouds in the sky seemed to want to crush the heavens and earth. The entire sky turned dark. In the mountain range, countless figures fell into a state of panic. People from different factions glanced at each other. Could it be an expert invited by the other party? However, they discovered that the people from the various powers were all panicking. They didn't know who the newcomer was. A gigantic face appeared above the dark clouds that shrouded the sky. It was like the face of a storm, like an evil demon, terrifying to the extreme. So many nourishment. A low voice rang out, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. They felt an intense sense of unease. Nourishment? The evil face that appeared in the sky called them nourishment. Go! All the experts instantly lost the tense atmosphere they had before. They lost the will to fight and started to run for their lives. The evil devil that appeared in the sky was extremely terrifying. A malevolent smile appeared on the evil face. Countless deathly gray air currents flew downwards, disregarding all defenses and directly penetrated through the heads of the experts. After that, gray shadows flew out from the bodies of the experts and gathered in the sky. Those illusory shadows revealed boundless terror. They seemed like souls. Below them, silhouettes fell one after another. Regardless of whether they were powerful humans or demonic beasts, they all fell without exception. In just a short period of time, the entire mountain range was devoid of life. It was deathly silent, like a forbidden place for living beings, like purgatory on earth. That illusory face had a look of incomparable enjoyment on its face. After that, a figure walked out from it. This figure was a young man who looked somewhat handsome. It was just that his countenance was too pale, like there was no blood in it. He was like a devil, looking extremely sinister and terrifying. Compared to humans, he seemed more like a devil. The nourishment of the supreme ancient immortal realms is truly more beneficial compared to the nourishment of the lower world. Right now, the desolate region is ownerless. I really have to thank you, Qin Wenyin. The lips of the young man curled up in a cold smile. It was said that right now, Qin Wenyin was busy dealing with the pressure from the Buddhist sect. Most probably, he didn't have the time to spare to deal with Qin Wenyin. What are you so happy about? At this moment, a voice rang out. The young man turned his head and stared at the gigantic evil face in the sky. He coldly spoke, "Shut up. Since when is it your turn to interfere in my matters? Your matters are my matters." That gigantic face coldly spoke. Ridiculous. Do you think I would believe your ridiculous words? The young man mocked. No matter if you believe it or not, I'm your previous incarnation. Do you know why you are so evil? Because this is predestined. You are my reincarnation. This is your fate. From the day you were born, you were already destined to walk to this day. Scram! The young man roared. He didn't believe it. He was just him, Yuchangkong. Hee, you will understand after you wake up. That gigantic face spoke again. After that, it slowly dissipated into nothingness, like it had never existed before. Chapter 1942. The things that happened in the desolate region were already extremely shocking, but they didn't attract too much attention. Because right now, the desolate region was no longer governed by anyone, and there was another matter that concerned the future of the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was rumored that the Western world had already persuaded the Qinkuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace to leave the Qin heavenly divine sect. The Buddhist sect personally paid a visit to these two hegemonic powers. Given how powerful the Western world was, even the Qinkuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace would have to give them some face, right? Because of these rumors, the atmosphere in the Qin heavenly divine sect became somewhat strange. Qin Wenyin didn't ask the Qinkuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden. If they really made a decision, Qin Wenyin wouldn't hate them. After all, their relationship was merely an alliance. It wasn't as solid as one might imagine. Today, the Qinkuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden came to Qin Wentian's side. Qin Wenyin naturally warmly welcomed them. Sect leader, Nine Heavens mystical maiden. Qin Wenyan smiled. Qin Wenyan, we don't wish to say too much since we came here. Let's just say it directly. The Western world wants us to leave the Qin heavenly divine sect. The Qinkuan sect leader directly spoke. Sect leader has agreed? Qin Wenyan asked. My master has already agreed. The Western world promised that after the Buddhist sect controls the heaven vault, they would still allow the core members of my Qinkuan sect to enter the heaven vault for cultivation. The Qinkuan sect leader spoke, staring at Qin Wenyin. However, he only saw that Qin Wentian's expression was incomparably calm. There was even a faint smile on his face as he spoke. This is indeed an easy choice to make. I don't wish to persuade the old sect leader. Has Nine Heavens mystical maiden made the same decision as well? Her beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wenyin as she nodded lightly. Facing the powerful Western world, She didn't have a better choice. If she continued to form an alliance with Qin Wenyin, the Western world and the supreme ancient immortal realms might target them. In the past, both powers didn't dare to act recklessly. But now, with the intervention of the Western world, the balance of power instantly tilted. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was in an extremely disadvantageous situation. However, I can guarantee that the Nine Heavens Mystical Palace won't act against the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. The Nine Heavens Mystical Maiden added, "My Qinkuan sect won't interfere as well." The Qinkuan sect leader nodded. "Thank you, seniors," Qin Wendian said gratefully. Although he had lost 2 allies, at least they were not enemies. "You don't blame us?" the fairy of Jiotian asked as she stared at Qin Wenyin. "Seniors, as the overlords of your respective territories, you naturally have to make the most correct decision. Back then, you formed an alliance with me because you wanted to enter the Heaven Vault. It's only normal for you to back out now. What's there to be resentful about? As long as we aren't enemies, let's part on good terms." Qin Wenyin appeared to be very carefree. Refreshing. "Sadly, I don't know if I would still have a chance to drink with you in the future." The Qinkuan sect leader laughed uproariously. "Sect leader, if you want a drink, you can look for me anytime." Qin Wendian smiled. The Qinkuan sect leader nodded. After that, the 2 of them bid farewell and departed. Qin Wendian stared at their departing backs as a look of contemplation appeared on his face. At this moment, a snow-white figure leaped out and stood on Qin Wentian's shoulder. Her eyes were filled with unhappiness. "Big brother Qin, you really don't mind?" Purgatory also walked over, her gaze was cold. "I'm willing to treat them as friends. However, since this is a transaction of benefits, it's only normal that they don't want to treat me as a friend. After all, this implicates the benefits of their sect. It's understandable." Qin Wendian casually spoke. "How can they be so certain that the Western world would be able to seize the Heaven Vault?" Jun Mengchen also walked over. Clearly, they had heard what happened earlier. Qin Wentian's close friends all stayed in the same region and would often come to look for him. The Western world, in addition to the strength of the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect isn't even worth a mention when compared to them. Qin Wentian spoke. "In the future, if the Western world doesn't manage to seize the Heaven Vault, let's see what the Qinkuan sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace would think. At that time, senior brother, don't be soft-hearted and allow them to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. Also, those hypocritical bald donkeys, pretending to be compassionate. In my opinion, they are no different from the sinister Jiang clan of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms back then. The monks from Wenxin Temple are more like esteemed monks." Jun Mingchen's tone was filled with unhappiness. "Do you think that fellow Bujie is like an esteemed monk?" A strange expression appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he laughed. When he thought of Bujie, black lines appeared on Jun Mingchen's face. Indeed, Bujie didn't seem like an esteemed monk. Qin Wendian laughed. The so-called Buddhist sect was merely a type of energy cultivation. Because people had different talents, they would walk on different paths. The Buddhist sect also acknowledged that there was no difference in the lives of all living beings. The experts from the Qinkuan sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace retreated from the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. A storm was about to descend. The discussions about this matter in the supreme ancient immortal realms grew even more intense. Everyone felt that the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect only existed in name. Although a war hasn't erupted yet, with the intervention of the Western world, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect would be easily destroyed. Seems like that majestic divine sect in the Boundless Sea region was built for nothing. Qin Wenyin and the others most probably had to hide in the Heaven Vault again. Not only for the outside world, even those in the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect were filled with trepidation. Ever since the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was established, many powers in the Heaven region have submitted to it. In fact, there were even many experts who joined the sect. But now that the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was in danger, the intentions of many people were naturally revealed. Qin Wenyin gathered Qi Yu, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch, and the others, telling them that they should use this opportunity to reorganize the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, eliminating those with evil intentions. Everyone naturally understood Qin Wentian's meaning. They immediately started to reorganize the sect, telling their subordinates that the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect might face a great crisis in the future. If they wanted to leave, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect would understand and wouldn't obstruct them. Many people left the Divine Sect. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect had just been established, and because of the interference of the Western world, they were now in a situation of internal and external troubles. After that, the Western world sent a message to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, telling them to relocate and leave the Boundless Sea region. In addition, Qin Wenian had to open the Heaven Vault and hand over the method to control it. The hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms wouldn't make things difficult for the Divine Sect. The Buddhist sect was merciful and wouldn't harm a single person. As this news circulated out, the gazes of the supreme ancient immortal realms once again focused on the Heaven Vault. The Western world sent a message to Qin Wenian, telling them to relocate. The Buddhist sect was merciful and wouldn't harm a single person. However, Qin Wenian had to hand over the Heaven Vault. This was the foundation of everything. In the Divine Sect, Qin Wentian's friends were all incomparably enraged when they learned of this news. They cursed the Western world for being shameless. The Buddhist sect was merciful? Hand over the secret of the Heaven Vault and the Divine Sect would relocate to other places in the supreme ancient immortal realms? How laughable! Once the Heaven Vault was gone, would the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms spare Qin Wenian and the others? The Buddhist sect was truly merciful because there was basically no need for them to act. There would be people who would settle everything. They only needed to command the Pure Land of Bliss. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect didn't reply. Not replying could also be considered a reply. Without a doubt, Qin Wenian had rejected them. The vast majority of people in the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect entered the Heaven Vault, preparing to face any situation that might happen. It seemed like everything was going to return to the past. It was just that right now, Qin Wentian's opponents were even more powerful than before. At the Boundless Sea coast, experts gathered here. Back then, there were many times where experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms gathered here. Now, a storm was brewing again. At the shore, the sea wind gusted intensely as the waves churned. In the air, a group of figures suddenly appeared. Their auras were extremely terrifying, like they were the hegemons of an area. "They're here." Someone spoke. These were experts from the Thunder Clan. Their target was the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. In the air, another group of experts arrived. The person in the lead had a cold expression and was wielding a halberd. Qin Zheng from the Qin clan. He is even colder than before. Heaven's son Qin Dangtian didn't come. Could it be that he is still cultivating outside? Someone stared at the air. The Qin clan had concealed themselves for many years and now, they appeared once again. This time around, they were still targeting Qin Wenian. More and more experts gathered at the Boundless Sea coast. All of them seemed to have some sort of tacit understanding and were waiting. Only after the experts from the various powers arrived did they step out together, flying towards the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. There's no one from the Western world who came. Everyone discovered that there were no Buddhist cultivators. The Western world didn't interfere at all. The powerful Western world only needed to issue orders. They didn't even need to show their faces. This was the source of their confidence. However, if they really wanted to take down the Heaven Vault, the Western world would have to be the one controlling it. This was the consensus of the experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms. At the border between the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and the Boundless Sea territory, Qin Wenian stood in the air, calmly staring at the experts arriving. The experts stopped not far away from him. Both sides didn't speak. The silence and pressure in the air caused people to feel even more fear. Qin Zheng and his wife stared at Qin Wenian, their eyes flashing with the flames of hatred. Qin Wenian caused the Qin clan to decline. On the day of their son's wedding, he destroyed half of the Qin clan. The wind and clouds howled as the waves churned wildly. The waves slammed against the shore, creating 1,000 layers of waves. The violent qi currents clashed in the air, as though a destructive force was brewing in the air. At this moment, black clouds suddenly appeared in the sky. These clouds were so dark that it caused people to feel a sense of pressure. They were like the color of death, growing darker and darker. Emichim? Everyone inclined their heads and stared at the sky as a strange look appeared on their faces. The experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms frowned. What was going on with these black clouds? The black clouds continued to gather. The darkness grew increasingly dark and terrifying, as though it was the color of hell. Even the heavenly deities felt a terrifying pressure bearing down on them. Under this black dome of heaven, even breathing became extremely difficult, extremely unbearable. Who is it? A heavenly deity roared, his voice shaking the heavens and earth. The violent sound waves wanted to disperse the black clouds in the sky, but the black clouds didn't disperse at all. Qin Wendian also had a strange look on his face. He inclined his head and stared at the sky. What was going on? It seemed like the other party also didn't know where these black clouds came from. The black clouds grew more and more terrifying, about to cover the entire sky. At this moment, the black clouds churned and seemed to have dimmed a little. But soon after, a scene appeared in the black clouds. It was a world that was filled with deathly stillness and oppressiveness. Chapter 1943. What is this? The heavenly deities of the various hegemonic powers all had looks of shock on their faces. The entire sky was covered by a dark, deathly stillness. Also, that deathly stillness seemed to transform into a scene of a world. Just when they were feeling bewildered, that deathly stillness continued to transform as living creatures appeared. It was like there was a vast expanse of heaven and earth with heavenly deities descending from the sky, wanting to annihilate all existences. For a period of time, the heavens and earth wept tears of blood. It was unknown how many people died. It was like everyone in this world was being slaughtered. This scene caused everyone to feel an extreme pressure. Someone seemed to have thought of something as his heart pounded violently. Just as the sound of that person's voice faded, a pitch-black silhouette seemed to walk out from the deathly silent world. After that, a second, a third, and many more silhouettes appeared from the deathly silent picture scroll. Their eyes were lifeless, and there was no sign of life. They were like corpses, not living creatures, but like an army of undead. "It's him." An extremely shocked voice rang out. That heavenly deity was so frightened that he involuntarily took a step back. From this, one could see how strong the shock in his heart was. He has returned. But why would he appear in the boundless sea region, below the heaven vault? They didn't understand. On the boundless sea coast, countless people exchanged mutual glances. Some people seemed to have guessed something as their expressions drastically changed. They spoke in terror. How can this be possible? Who is it? Some young experts didn't understand. They still didn't know who it was exactly. Grim Reaper. An old man spoke in a solemn voice. These two words were like a taboo existence in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Almost no one had mentioned it before. It only existed in an ancient legend. I once heard my ancestors speak of it before. The Grim Reaper once led an army of the dead and slaughtered his way into the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was unknown how many experts he killed, causing the lives of the people to be plunged into misery and suffering. That old man seemed to be narrating an ancient legend as his expression turned solemn. Who is the Grim Reaper? Someone had never heard of the Grim Reaper before. He is someone from ancient Azure Mystic. Countless years ago, ancient Azure Mystic was once destroyed. The Grim Reaper was a peak character of ancient Azure Mystic. He once slaughtered his way into the supreme ancient immortal realms, wanting to take revenge for the destruction of Azure Mystic. It's rumored that the reason why Azure Mystic was sealed until now might have something to do with the Grim Reaper. The old man's words caused the hearts of countless people on the boundless sea coast to tremble. To many of them, this was the first time they had heard of the Grim Reaper. He inclined his head and stared at the scene in the air. The person who came was actually the legendary existence that once killed his way into the supreme ancient immortal realms. Now, he has descended once again. The experts of the top forces naturally knew more than ordinary people. They already knew who was coming, and their hearts were extremely restless. Why did the Grim Reaper appear in the Boundless Sea region when they were about to deal with Qin Wenyin? Could it be because of the Western world? Is it the Grim Reaper? Qin Zheng looked up at the sky and asked. There was no response. The sky was covered by a dark and silent world. The cultivators were not in the mood to deal with Qin Wenyin at the moment. In the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, Qin Wenyin stood at the boundary between the Divine Sect and the Sea region. He was also staring at the sky, and when he heard Qin Zheng's words, his heart involuntarily trembled. Was he the Grim Reaper? The last time he returned to Qin Xian, his divine thoughts covered the whole of Qin Xian, but he could not find him. Are you the one who once used Qin Xian to threaten Qin Wenyin? At this moment, a voice rang out from the world of darkness, causing Qin Zheng's heart to tremble. Back then, when the various experts surrounded the heaven vault, the Ox chieftain of the Divine Ox clan suggested that he use the Qinsheng realm to threaten Qin Wenyin. Qin Zheng didn't expect that the Grim Reaper actually knew of this. At that time, Qin Zheng basically didn't expect that the Grim Reaper, who hadn't appeared for countless years, was still around and was paying attention to the movements of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Maybe he had always been in the Azure Mystic immortal realms. Back then, when the seal on ancient Azure Mystic was lifted, he might have been the one who released the news. Back then, because of the matter regarding the Heaven Vault, I had no choice but to do so. I wouldn't really have such thoughts. Qin Zheng replied. The current Qin clan was no longer the same as before. His father Qin Ding was exiled. Right now, his confidence in speaking was much weaker. Before the Grim Reaper, he didn't dare to be arrogant. Since you don't have such thoughts, just scram then. Qin Wenyin is the successor of ancient Azure Mystic. A voice rang out from the dark sky. Qin Zheng's heart trembled violently. The experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms were all shocked as well. Qin Wenyin was the Heaven Empyrean of Azure Mystic. Many people knew about this. However, he was actually the successor of ancient Azure Mystic? What status did he have exactly? The son of Qin Yuanfeng of the Qin clan, the grandson of Luo Shenchuan, the successor of the Heaven Vault, the successor of the Tiandao Sacred Academy, and now the successor of ancient Azure Mystic. All these legendary characters came out for him, appearing once again in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Western world persuaded the Chengkuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace to back out. The Tiandao Sacred Academy also didn't appear. Everything seemed to be set in stone, but at this moment, an even more terrifying character appeared. The Grim Reaper. Although no one knew how strong Headmaster Yi of the Tiandao Sacred Academy was and how strong the Grim Reaper was, but after all, the headmaster of the Tiandao Sacred Academy had never threatened the lives of any heavenly deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms before. He seemed to be an otherworldly existence and had only appeared to protect Qin Wenyin once. But the Grim Reaper was extremely famous since ancient times. From the perspective of everyone, the threat he posed was clearly far greater compared to the headmaster of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. It's really him. Qin Wenyin inclined his head, feeling extremely shocked in his heart. He didn't expect that his conjecture was right. That crazy old freak was actually the Grim Reaper who caused the entire supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble in fear upon hearing his name. Other than that old freak, Qin Wenyin truly couldn't think of anyone else. It's him. In Qin Wentian's mind, a voice rang out. This was the voice of the Skybreak heavenly deity. His voice was filled with boundless emotions. He didn't expect that a strand of his will wouldn't be destroyed and he would still have a chance to meet him. Qin Wenyin did obtain his inheritance. In that case, the efforts of the heavenly deities of ancient Azure Mystic wouldn't be wasted. In addition, Qin Wenyin didn't let them down and was growing stronger and stronger. This is the meaning of the Western world. At this moment, a young heavenly deity spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, the gazes of many turned to him as strange expressions appeared on their faces. Shut up! A heavenly deity beside him transmitted his voice over. And as expected, as the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying, stifling pressure bore down on him. He only felt a pair of eyes staring at him, so cold. Scram. As the sound of the word scram rang out, it was incomparably cold. The heavenly deities exchanged mutual glances, no one dared to retort. After hesitating for a moment, a heavenly deity spoke, "Farewell." After speaking, that heavenly deity actually turned and departed. After that, many heavenly deities from the peak powers left respectively. The appearance of the Grim Reaper directly disrupted their plans. It would be extremely difficult for them to continue to deal with Qin Wenyan. No one dared to take the risk. Even after countless years, his ferocious name still lingered in the air. On the boundless sea coast, everyone saw the experts from the peak powers leaving just like that. They came in such a grandiose manner, but they actually left with their tails between their legs. They couldn't help but to feel shocked. Was the Grim Reaper really so powerful? What sort of existence was he? Also, it was the Western world who wanted Qin Wenyan to hand over the Heaven Vault. Could it be that the Grim Reaper was a terrifying existence that could contend against the Western world? After all the experts left, the black clouds that seemed as though they wanted to collapse the sky dissipated. The sky returned to normal. The sea breeze continued as usual. There was no longer any pressure. It was like no one had ever been here before. Staring at the blue sky, many people felt as though they were in a different world. Everything felt extremely surreal. Princess Kitamura's figure appeared beside Qin Wenyan. Her beautiful eyes stared up at the sky as she asked in a low voice, "Is it him?" "Emichim." Qin Wenyan nodded. Only the two of them knew who the Grim Reaper was. "Why didn't he appear?" Princess Kitamura asked. It was like no one had ever come to the sky before. "It's not like you don't know what sort of person that madman is. He's always acting like a madman. When did he pass by?" Qin Wenyan cursed in a low voice as a smile appeared on his face. Princess Kitamura stared at Qin Wenyan. She had a speechless look on her face. However, Qin Wenyan's words seemed to make sense. That madman was indeed a madman. In the Western world, the pure land of bliss, the land of the Buddhist sect. Auspicious light enveloped the sky, exuding a sense of tranquility. This was the holy land of the Buddhist sect, capable of enlightening all living beings. Every day, countless people would head in this direction and worship. But today, the worship of the people turned into fear. Because that auspicious holy land, the pure land of bliss, was now enveloped by darkness. It was as though countless dead spirits had appeared in the sky. In the pure land of bliss, numerous Buddhist cultivators walked out. Their countenances were extremely unsightly as they inclined their heads and stared at the darkness that enveloped this holy land. Who exactly was it that was so audacious? Numerous ancient Buddhas were surrounded by golden bodies. The golden light radiating from them seemed to be able to pierce through the darkness. However, the darkness was too thick. Even when the golden light pierced through, it was unable to disperse it. In that world of darkness, countless vengeful spirits appeared, howling and howling, causing this holy land to transform into a land of purgatory. Boom! The sound of a bell rang out as more and more Buddhas walked out. After that, a voice rang out, "After so many years, benefactor's resentment is still as intense as ever." The holy land of the Buddhist Tao, the pure land of bliss, worshipped by the people of the world. When you guys spread your Tao, when you spread kindness, have you ever felt any guilt in your hearts? A voice rang out from the darkness, enveloping this boundless space. Many Buddhist cultivators pressed their palms together and chanted, as though they wanted to disperse the darkness. "Lodge Lord, since you have returned to the supreme ancient immortal realms, how many sins do you want to commit?" That ancient voice rang out once more, filled with benevolence and kindness. It was as though just by listening to this voice, one would be able to sense the will to bemoan the state of the universe and pity the fate of mankind. Back then when Azure Mystic was destroyed, how many vengeful spirits were there? A voice in the darkness replied, "If there is hell in this world, why don't you all enter it?" Chapter 1944. If the words of the Grim Reaper were to be known by the people of the world, it would surely cause a huge storm. From his words, one could clearly infer that the Western world was a participant in the world-ending battle back then. In addition, the Grim Reaper's resentment was extremely heavy, asking these Buddhist cultivators why they didn't go to hell. From this, one could see that the Buddhist sect wasn't just an ordinary participant. Buddha is merciful. When it's time to go to hell, one should naturally go to hell. Everything depends on karma and fate. As for the countless vengeful souls in Azure Mystic back then, if it wasn't for the persistence of Sir Benefactor and the Heaven Lord, things wouldn't have ended up like this. The voice from the Buddhist sect rang out once more. Laughter rang out from the darkness. What a good karma and fate. I will wait for the karma of the Western world. Sir, what is your purpose for coming to the Western world today? Let me tell everyone. The things you guys did to Azure Mystic in the past, do you want to do it again to the successor of Azure Mystic? If something happens to Qin Wenyin, I will definitely turn the Western world into a true hell, turning it into rivers of blood. A cold voice that seemed to come from purgatory rang out, causing the hearts of the Buddhist cultivators to tremble. These great Buddhas knew that the words of the Grim Reaper wouldn't be an alarmist. He would definitely do what he said. Qin Wenyin, the inheritor of ancient Azure Mystic. As expected, there was karma in everything. The Grim Reaper wanted to protect Qin Wenyin, allowing him to continue growing. The darkness gradually dispersed, and auspicious golden light pierced through the dark sky. The dark clouds dissipated, and not long after, the pure and holy light once again enveloped the pure land of Buddhism. It was so tranquil and auspicious, like a paradise on earth. The golden light illuminated the world. This was a land of faith, a land of extreme bliss, untainted by the filth of the world. That darkness seemed to have never appeared before. It vanished without a trace, formless and formless. But this time, his appearance was already telling the world that he has returned and he was in the supreme ancient immortal realms. No power dared to ignore his existence. Even the Western world didn't dare to do so. Everything that happened back then, the Western world was clearer than any other power. Back then, when ancient Azure Mystic was destroyed, the supreme ancient immortal realms also faced a calamity. In that calamity, it was unknown how many powers were annihilated. Everywhere the armies of the dead passed by, everything would be turned into ashes. In the Buddhist sacred land, the pure lands of bliss, the sound of a bell rang out. It was as though a great Buddha was gathering all the Buddhist cultivators for a discussion. The various hegemonic powers were all observing. After the Grim Reaper forced them to retreat, everyone was waiting, observing the movements of the Western world. Very soon, they received news that not only did the Grim Reaper come to the Heaven Vault, he also appeared in the Western world at the same time. No one knew if his true body was in the Boundless Sea region or the Western world. Maybe his true body wasn't there. The name of the Grim Reaper started to circulate through the supreme ancient immortal realms. Only a very few people knew that there was actually such a powerful existence in the world, able to easily intimidate the experts from the various peak powers. Also, he used darkness to envelop the Western world. To the people of the world, this was simply an inconceivable thing. Yet, there was actually someone who did it. Also, regardless of the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms or the Western world, all of them were extremely fearful of him. After that, news about the origins of the Grim Reaper also circulated. It was rumored that he was none other than the supreme existence who sealed the Azure Mystic immortal realms, not allowing experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms to enter. He was a supreme character from ancient Azure Mystic countless years ago. He once led his army of dead spirits to destroy the supreme ancient heavenly deity race, and many heavenly deities died in his hands. After countless years, he appeared once again in the supreme ancient immortal realms. But this time around, he appeared to protect his successor, or rather, the successor of ancient Azure Mystic, Qin Wenyin. The Heaven Vault was safe once again. It stubbornly persisted despite the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms surrounding it. Just when the people of the world thought that the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect would be razed to flat ground, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect didn't suffer any losses at all. In fact, the experts from the other hegemonic powers didn't even dare to attack them anymore. Back then, Headmaster Yi of the Tiandao Sacred Academy only acted. But this time around, the Grim Reaper was clearly warning the people of the world. Who would dare to act so casually? Within the Qin Heavenly Divine sect, Qin Wenyin naturally also learned of the Grim Reaper's arrival. He sighed in his heart. He didn't expect that old freak to be so powerful to such an extent. The Western world was a power that could force the Chenkuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace to retreat with a single sentence. Yet, the Grim Reaper actually transformed into darkness and descended upon them. At this moment, in the sea region outside the Qin Heavenly Divine sect, a figure could be seen sitting on a boat, drifting towards the direction of the Qin Heavenly Divine sect. The figure on the boat looked extremely sloppy. His messy hair casually draped over his shoulders, blocking his eyes. He was clad in an extremely simple gray robe that seemed extremely old. There was no aura radiating from him at all. He was like a beggar, extremely inconspicuous. The boat drifted until it reached the outskirts of the Qin Heavenly Divine sect. He actually got off the boat and walked towards the interior of the Divine sect. Someone stopped him and spoke. The Qin Heavenly Divine sect doesn't allow outsiders to enter. Please return. The sloppy old man ran his fingers through his long hair, revealing an aged face as well as turbid eyes. He lazily spoke, "Get your sect leader to come and see me." What arrogant words! The guard's gaze froze as he stared at the sloppy old man. He was silently musing that this fellow couldn't be a madman, right? What sort of place was the Qin Heavenly Divine sect? What sort of character was their sect leader? He was a character the entire Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms wanted to deal with. This beggar-like old man actually wanted the sect leader to come and see him? Old man, it's better for you to leave. Don't joke around like this. The guard waved his hand. If it wasn't for the fact that the sloppy old man was an old man, he would have directly acted against him. How dare the sloppy old man be so disrespectful to their sect leader? Okay, I'll leave then. Don't beg me to come back. The old man actually turned and left in a carefree manner. This caused the guard to have a puzzled look on his face. Beg him to come back? There was an 80% chance that this old man was a madman. At this moment, a burst of spatial fluctuations could be felt. In an instant, an extraordinarily handsome silhouette appeared out of thin air, exuding a transcendent aura. When the guard saw who it was, his body trembled. He bowed and greeted, "Sect Lord." The person who came was none other than Qin Wenyin. Only to see Qin Wenyin calling out to the old man on the boat, "Senior." The boat stopped. The old man turned his head and smiled at Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyan's silhouette flashed and appeared beside the old man. He spoke in a trembling voice, "Since Senior is already here, how can I leave? Come, quickly enter the divine sect." The old man stared at Qin Wenyin with a strange look in his eyes. "When did you become so polite? I can't afford it." In the past, Qin Wenyin wasn't polite at all to him. "Senior, what are you saying? In the past, Junior was young and ignorant. Isn't it because I know my mistakes and want to change? Senior, please come in." Qin Wenyin smiled. The guard opened his eyes wide when he saw this scene, thinking that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Was this still their sect leader? He actually seemed to be fawning. How would this fellow know what sort of character this old man was? Qin Wenyin was very clear now. What a joke. This old man was a peak existence in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Someone who stood at the very peak and dared to enter the Western world. Also, leaving aside how strong he was, just based on the fact that he taught him the undying scripture and the fact that he saved his life in the past, as well as the fact that he resolved the storm this time around, lowering his attitude a little? Earlier, there was someone who didn't allow me to enter. The crazy old man narrowed his eyes as he stared at the guard. The guard started. He glanced at Qin Wenyin only to see Qin Wenyin glaring at him. "I'm begging Senior, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. A few days ago, Senior came to the Heaven Vault and prevented a calamity from befalling our divine sect." The guard's body trembled violently as he thought back to the terrifying scene a few days ago. The sky was covered by darkness and the Grim Reaper descended, suppressing the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms and telling everyone to scram with a single sentence. This sloppy old man before him, was he that terrifying existence? When he thought of this, his heart pounded madly. Damn, he actually chased the Grim Reaper out? Who is the crazy old man here? Senior, as a great person, please don't hold grudges against me. Why must you lower yourself to the same level as Junior? Senior, please enter the divine sect. After the guard recovered from his shock, he bowed and spoke as politely as he could. What a joke. This old man was definitely the strongest existence he had ever seen in his entire life. Is the little lass Biming in the divine sect? The crazy old man asked. She is. I will get Biming to come and meet Senior now. Qin went in. He and Biming could be considered half a successor of the crazy old man. Although he kept cursing and scolding the old man when they were tortured back then, he was still very grateful after they exited the forbidden ground. Now, there was no need to say anything more. I'm here to see Biming. If you are the only one here, I wouldn't be interested at all. The crazy old man calmly spoke. He placed his hair on his shoulders and walked forward with his hands behind his back. He finally exuded some imposing aura, but when compared to the weight of the two words Grim Reaper, his aura was still too lacking. However, Qin Wenyan knew that this was the personality of the crazy old man. As for the words the crazy old man said, it was fine to just listen. If the crazy old man wasn't interested, would he personally act for him and head to the Western world? Naturally, Qin Wenyan wouldn't expose him. He smiled. Senior is right. Oh right, Senior, this Junior has already mastered the Undying Scripture. Does Senior have any innate techniques that are similar to the Undying Scripture? Why don't you impart them to me so that I can protect myself? The crazy old man's face darkened as he stared at Qin Wenyan. Why did he choose such a shameless inheritor? Upon seeing the look of disdain in the old freak's eyes, Qin Wenyan smiled. He didn't mind and continued, "It's fine if you pass it to Yu Huang." The crazy old freak spat out a word. This bastard, did he think he was an idiot? What was the difference between passing it to Yu Huang or him? It's fine if you don't have any. Back then Senior casually gave this Junior a black rod and it can be considered suitable for me to use. However, Biming Yu Huang doesn't have any suitable treasures on her. Senior, why don't you? Qin Wenyan continued to shamelessly ask for treasures. This peak-level existence who had lived for countless years actually appeared. If he didn't extort some money from him, wouldn't it be too much of a loss? Chapter 1945. The crazy old freak glared at Qin Wenyan. This bastard really knew how to extort money from others. I know what I'm doing, there's no need for you to care. The crazy old freak coldly spoke. That's only natural. What sort of character is Senior? I'm sure the gift you gave Yu Huang wouldn't be any weaker than the god-slaying rod. Qin Wenyan trembled as he laughed, appearing somewhat shameless. However, if he could obtain a treasure on par with the god-slaying rod, so what if he was a little shameless? His skin was simply so thick. Within the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, Princess Kitamura also saw the crazy old freak. A strange look flashed in her eyes. He was still as sloppy as before, no matter how she looked at him, he was just like an old man. She really had no way to put him together with that supreme expert who forced the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms to retreat with a single sentence. This feeling was really strange. Yu Huang, Senior just promised to give you a treasure. Quickly thank Senior. Qin Wenyan reminded when he saw Yu Huang in a daze. Yu Huang's beautiful eyes blinked as she stared at Qin Wenyan. Upon seeing Qin Wenyan blinking at her, she understood in her heart. She was somewhat speechless, but she still spoke in a light voice. It has been so many years since we last met. Senior's elegance is still the same as before. Elegance? What elegance do I have? Seems like you have learned bad things from this fellow. The crazy old freak stared at Princess Kitamura as he spoke, causing Princess Kitamura to feel somewhat awkward. A bitter smile appeared in her cold eyes as she glared at Qin Wenyan. How's your cultivation of the death scripture? The crazy old freak asked. Not too bad. Yu Huang replied in a light voice. She also didn't know what level her cultivation had reached. Enshim, the death scripture is a supreme innate art. Although its survivability isn't as good as his undying scripture, it isn't weaker in other aspects. The reason why I imparted the undying scripture to him is because I know that this fellow's talent isn't good enough and he needs to protect his life frequently. The crazy old freak impolitely spoke, not giving any face to Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan smiled wryly and was somewhat speechless. So, the reason why he had taught him the death scripture was to save his life? Was he afraid that he would die too quickly? As for his talent, most probably no one in the vast supreme ancient immortal realms would think so. Has this kid bullied you all these years? The crazy old man asked again. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes froze as she stared at Qin Wenyan. This question seemed to be somewhat ambiguous, and she didn't know what to say for a moment. Bully? Qin Wenyan's face darkened. This question, how can I bully Yu Huang? Senior is thinking too much. Qin Wenyan smiled. No. Princess Kitamura blinked her eyes and looked at Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan blinked. Hehe, tell me, I'll teach him a lesson for you. The eyes of the crazy old man stared at Qin Wenyan, causing Qin Wenyan to shiver. In the past, when the crazy old man was abusing him in the Forbidden Ground, this was the same look in his eyes. Although the current Qin Wenyan was already strong enough, he still felt a little weak when facing against this crazy old man who dared to head to the Western world. No need, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. Princess Kitamura smiled. Her smile was like the melting of ice and snow, extremely beautiful. Staring at the two juniors, the crazy old man nodded slightly. He took out a pearl that shone with resplendent light. There seemed to be an unfathomable amount of energy contained within. Qin Wenyan and Princess Kitamura could both sense the powerful soul energy contained within. The crazy old man was proficient in soul energy. The god-slaying rod was specialized in soul attacks. Could this pearl be the same? Take it and refine it when you return. Don't let it down. The crazy old man stretched out his hand and passed the pearl to Princess Kitamura. His eyes were heavy, and when he saw the expression on the crazy old man's face, Qin Wenyan felt joy in his heart. Seems like this treasure is extraordinary, or the crazy old man wouldn't be so serious. Given his strength, most probably, ordinary divine weapons wouldn't be able to catch his eye. It was the same even for divine weapons. Princess Kitamura nodded seriously. She received the pearl and carefully kept it. From the expression of the crazy old man, she could sense that this pearl was extraordinary. She didn't want to let it down. Most probably, this pearl was extremely precious to the crazy old man. Bring me to the heaven vault to take a look. The two of you accompany me, don't let anyone else follow us. The crazy old man spoke again. He could already sense that there were many people heading their way. Qin Wenyan nodded. The crazy old man had lived in seclusion in the forbidden grounds of the Dark North Immortal Mountain for countless years. Most probably, he was already used to being alone. There weren't many people who had seen him before, and his personality was naturally a little strange. To the crazy old man, in the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, he was only acquainted with Qin Wenyan and Princess Kitamura. He most probably wasn't interested in the others. Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice to the people in the surroundings. Everyone instantly understood and dispersed. Although they were very curious about this legendary character, since the crazy old man didn't wish to meet them, there was nothing they could do. It was just that it was a pity. If the crazy old man wanted to enter the heaven vault, Qin Wenyan naturally wouldn't have any objections. He and Princess Kitamura followed the crazy old man and passed through the ancient heaven vault pathway, arriving at the boundless starry space of the 9 heavenly layers. The three of them strolled through the starry space. The crazy old man walked in front with his hands clasped behind his back. He inclined his head and stared at the boundless starry space as he sighed, "How majestic!" Even someone as powerful as him had never been to the 9 heavenly layers before. Although he had such a thought before, he didn't put it into practice. Right now, he was thinking that given his current cultivation base, if he didn't use the heaven vault, It was unknown how long it would take for him to travel from the ground to the 9 heavenly layers. During these years, he had always been protecting ancient Azure Mystic. In truth, he rarely left Azure Mystic, let alone exploring the starry space. I heard that you obtained God King Shi's inheritance? Qin Wentian nodded. This heaven vault was transformed from God King Shi's body and will. What an incredible character. Back then, I once made an agreement with him to explore the starry space. But after that, the changes in Azure Mystic occurred. Who would have thought that today half of my wish back then would be fulfilled? Only I managed to come here. The crazy old man's voice was filled with melancholy. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through time, wanting to see the people of the past. At this moment he suddenly turned and stared at Yu Huang. His old eyes turned extremely deep, flickering with love as he spoke in a light voice. If you have any questions you don't understand on the path of cultivation, you can ask her in your mind. She will be able to help you dispel your doubts. Princess Kitamura felt somewhat puzzled, but she still nodded her head. The person the crazy old man was referring to was naturally her master. Her master was a powerful heavenly deity from ancient Azure Mystic. Her master was currently in the form of a will in her mind. Senior, I've read through the dossiers regarding the world-ending battle, but there are still many things that I'm unclear about. What happened back then exactly? Qin Wendian asked. I don't wish to mention the past anymore. But there's an enemy we have to destroy no matter what. Everything that happened back then was started by them. The crazy old man spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. The Western world. The crazy old man stared at the sky as he spoke. Qin Wentian's body trembled. The main culprit of the world-ending battle back then was actually the Western world? The crazy old man could ignore the other participants of the battle, only saying that the Western world had to be destroyed no matter what. From this, one could very well imagine what sort of role the Western world played in the world-ending battle of ancient Azure Mystic. But all of this, even in the Heavenly Dao library of the Tiandao Sacred Academy, there were no records of this. Why did they do this? Qin Wentian asked. Although there were many viewpoints in the ancient scrolls, the crazy old man was someone who personally experienced it. His words were the truth. Qin Wentian had never believed that the Western world was a merciful place. If not, why would they do something like forceful seizing, forcing the Chenkuan sect and 9 Heavens mystical palace to back out and gathering so many experts here? The Western world only needed to control everything from behind the scenes. They didn't even need to act personally. But even if they weren't merciful, Qin Wentian also found it hard to imagine that the main culprit behind the destruction of an entire world was actually the Buddhic energy of the Western world. The Buddhist sect is particular about karma and faith. Why do people of the world cultivate? To transcend everything. In that era, there was one person in the Western world who was the closest to transcending. The crazy old freak slowly spoke. Ever since the supreme ancient immortal realms were split into 8 regions, the 8 god kings all sought to transcend. The methods they used to pursue transcendence were all different. In that era, because of various reasons, only the God King of the Universe region remained in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Hence, ambition naturally grew. There were some people who wanted to become the supreme ancient immortal realms and unify the 33 immortal realms. They wanted to spread their faith in the 33 immortal realms, making everyone in the world believe in them. Hence, he instigated that war and almost achieved his goal. Azure Mystic was destroyed and the various regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms suffered heavy losses. Many powers were annihilated, but most probably, he himself didn't expect that he would suffer heavy injuries as well. Hence, this war was a lose-lose situation. The entire supreme ancient immortal realms lost. The crazy old man's expression was cold. He slowly spoke, and now he seems to be about to reappear. Seems like his injuries are about to fully recover. In that case, his next goal will not change. The heaven vault you are in is extremely important. It will be the crux for him to achieve his goal. Qin Wentian's expression froze. He didn't expect there to be such a hidden story behind this. That him, the crazy old man spoke of, Was he referring to the God King level existence from the universe region? The universe region was the only power that ruled over a region. Also, it ruled over 4 lower worlds. However, the crazy old man told him that this wasn't the goal of the universe region. They wanted all 33 immortal realms to believe in the Buddhist Tao. But once, there was actually someone who could heavily injure the God King of the Western world, suppressing his ambitions for countless years. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful the imperishable Heaven Lord was back then. Seems like the saints of the Buddhist sect still had no way to foresee heavenly secrets. And now, a storm arose once more. From the hidden meaning of the crazy old man's words, his heaven vault would no longer be peaceful. Chapter 1946. Since that existence from the Western world had such ambitions, controlling the heaven vault would make it easier for him to achieve it. In that case, in truth, no matter if the experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms went to pay a visit or not, the Western world would act sooner or later. Maybe, the visit this time around gave the Western world an excuse to act. In fact, they might even stand behind the scenes. That existence from the universe region, how strong was he back then? Qin Wentian asked. Although he had fought against many heavenly deities before and knew that the disparity in the heavenly deity realm was extremely great, how strong were the God Kings of the universe region? Did they pursue the peak of the heavenly Tao? From what he knew, the 2 God Kings of the 8 regions back then didn't transcend. If not, the Time King wouldn't have traversed the past and the future to search for the Tao of transcendence. God King she wouldn't pursue the Tao of transcendence. As for fate, their bodies transformed into the heaven vault. Clearly, they didn't manage to take that final step. Or, it was unknown whether that final step existed or not. The only person Qin Wentian could think of was that mysterious white-robed young man who shattered a constellation with a single finger. Even now, Qin Wentian didn't know what step that young man had reached exactly. The crazy old freak stared at the sky, as though he was reminiscing about the past. After that, he spoke in a light voice, very powerful. The Buddhist sect has many supreme great Taoists that have unfathomable abilities. For example, karma, samsara, the past, the future. They are all extremely terrifying. Qin Wentian's expression froze. The Western world was actually so terrifying? I've also met a supreme existence before. Even now, I don't know how strong he is. However, for people at that realm, shouldn't they be able to transcend the world? Why would they still care about worldly matters? Qin Wentian didn't understand. That mysterious white-robed young man didn't care about worldly matters at all. In fact, Headmaster Yi of the Tiandao Sacred Academy also didn't care about worldly matters and focused on his cultivation. I've already told you earlier. The Buddhist sect cultivates karma, collecting faith and karma. This is one of their methods. From what I know, that existence wants to dominate the supreme ancient immortal realms. When everyone in the supreme ancient immortal realms believes in the Buddhist Tao and believes in him, he might be able to transcend. Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. So that's the case, it's actually for the sake of cultivation. If that's the case, then his ambition will never cease. No wonder the ancient records in the Heavenly Tao Library stated that the Buddhist sect's rule over the universe region was deeply rooted. The people of the world believed in the Buddhist Tao and in fact, the Buddhist sect was the only religion in the 4 lower realms they ruled. The Buddhist Tao was supreme and had a transcendent status no matter where it was. No other domain's rule could be compared to the Buddhist sect. The Western world wanted the all-heaven immortal realms to believe in the Buddhist Tao so that it would be easier for them to transcend. After the conversation between Qin Wentian and the crazy old freak, he felt a pressure as heavy as a mountain. It felt like what he was facing now wasn't just the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms, there was also the Western world. Also, the Western world had God Kings and was the strongest place in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Right now, it was unknown how many heavenly deities there were in the Western world. The mysterious and unknown Western world was something he had to face. Leaving aside the fact that they coveted the heaven vault, Just the destruction of ancient Azure mystic was already unforgivable. An entire world was destroyed. This was simply unimaginable. The Buddhist sect talked about karma. Why were the Buddhists of the Western world not afraid of karma? Senior, what level has your cultivation base reached? Qin Wendian asked. The crazy old freak glanced at Qin Wendian, but he didn't reply. This heaven vault is connected to the 9 heavenly layers. In the future, if Senior cultivates here, there would be a day when you would be able to transcend. Qin Wendian smiled. You want me to stay here to protect you? The crazy old freak calmly spoke. Qin Wendian didn't feel awkward even though his thoughts were seen through. He smiled. Isn't it because the enemy is too strong? Senior isn't here, and if that God King from the universe region truly recovers, how can I be his opponent? It's fine if something happens to me, but Senior has to consider Yu Huang. Princess Kitamura rolled her eyes at Qin Wendian. This fellow was actually using her as an excuse. However, when she saw the other side of Qin Wendian, she felt that it was extremely funny. Only the crazy old freak would be able to deal with him. Back then when they entered the forbidden ground of the Dark North Immortal Mountain, Qin Wendian must have suffered a lot in order to obtain the inheritance. What? You still want me to protect your woman? The crazy old freak glared at Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian started there. He stealthily glanced at Princess Kitamura only to see that Princess Kitamura was also stunned. Her beautiful eyes exchanged a glance with Qin Wendian, and after that, a look of panic flashed in her eyes. She shifted her gaze away as her hands involuntarily clutched the corner of her robes. She who had always been calm seemed to be a little nervous because of a single sentence from the crazy old freak. Qin Wendian also felt somewhat awkward. Luckily at this moment, the crazy old freak spoke again. I only came here to take a look at the heaven vault. She is no longer here. What's the point of me staying here? I'm leaving. Treat her well. As the sound of his voice faded, the crazy old freak transformed into a series of afterimages before vanishing completely. Senior! Qin Wendian called out. However, the figure of the crazy old freak had already vanished from his vision. His speed was so fast that it was inconceivable. Just this speed alone was sufficient to allow him to roam unrivaled in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Resplendent astral light cascaded down on the two of them. Only Qin Wendian and Princess Kitamura were left here. In addition to the words spoken by the crazy old freak earlier, the atmosphere was somewhat awkward. Qin Wendian glanced at Princess Kitamura only to see that she was leaning to the side, not looking in their direction. It was unknown what she was thinking about. That, Yu Huang, are you going to cultivate in the heaven vault or go to the divine sect? Qin Wendian asked. What about you? Princess Kitamura asked. I will go out to take a look first. Qin Wendian still had no idea about the situation in the outside world. Cultivation would only take a day or two. Given his current cultivation realm, if he wanted to improve further, he would need a very long period of time. I will go with you then. Princess Kitamura spoke in a light voice. Initially, there wasn't anything wrong with this sentence. But when she thought of the words spoken by the crazy old freak earlier, Princess Kitamura felt that something was wrong. Upon seeing Qin Wendian's gaze landing on her face, Princess Kitamura actually shifted her gaze away in a panic. After that, she stepped out and headed outside. How long do you need to maintain this speed? Qin Wendian stepped forward. His spatial energy enveloped Princess Kitamura as the two of them flew out of the heaven vault together. After returning to the central divine city of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, Qin Wendian spoke to Princess Kitamura. Yu Huang, the pearl Senior gave you is an extraordinary treasure. Go and refine it to see what kind of treasure it is. Echem. Princess Kitamura nodded lightly. After that, she left and returned to her bedroom. She came to her cultivation area and sat down. Her beautiful eyes stared ahead in a daze, as though she was thinking about something. After a long time, she took out the pearl and attempted to refine it. However, no matter how many times she tried, she discovered that she couldn't refine the pearl at all. It is refined using one's soul. A voice rang out in her mind. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flashed as she asked, Teacher, are you acquainted with that Senior? The will in her mind fell silent. It didn't reply and spoke instead. This pearl is a treasure she used in the past. You have to make good use of it. Her. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flashed. She pondered for a moment before her heart trembled. She knew who her teacher was referring to. The imperishable Heaven Lord. This pearl was actually a treasure used by the imperishable Heaven Lord before. No wonder the crazy old freak would give it to her so solemnly. Senior Crazy's kindness to me, I'm afraid I won't be able to repay it. Princess Kitamura spoke in a light voice. Her teacher still didn't reply. After that, Princess Kitamura started to use her soul to refine the pearl. As expected, there was actually an incomparably terrifying amount of soul energy within the pearl that gradually fused into her soul. As the fusion continued, she could faintly sense the existence of a supremely powerful soul energy. This soul energy seemed to automatically envelop this boundless region, radiating outwards. In Yi Qianyu's palace, she saw Jialan Chuyue. It was as though she could sense Jialan Chuyue's soul. At this moment, Jialan Chuyue, who was in contemplation, suddenly furrowed her brows. She could sense that someone was spying on her, but when her immortal sense spread out, she didn't discover anything. This feeling was very strange. It felt like her soul was being spied on. Princess Kitamura's heart pounded violently. The pearl gradually fused with her soul, and her soul energy grew more and more terrifying. Her perception retreated from Jialan Chuyue's soul. Earlier, it was unintentional, but it wasn't good for her to keep spying on others. Her powerful soul energy allowed her to enter Qin Wentian's palace. When she saw Qin Wentian there, a strange thought appeared in her mind. After that, she tried to probe Qin Wentian's soul. Emichim? At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes froze. After that, his powerful soul energy transformed into a sealing energy, isolating the probing of others. After that, his soul energy gushed out ferociously, aiming for the source. However, he discovered that the source of the soul energy seemed to be everywhere and was hard to grasp. But by relying on his powerful soul energy, he still managed to find the source. He saw Princess Kitamura, who was currently cultivating. After being caught red-handed, Princess Kitamura's face turned red. Qin Wentian started for a moment before he smiled and silently retreated. He knew that Baiming Huang was refining the pearl. Seems like this treasure was extraordinary. It could actually silently invade the souls of others. This was too terrifying. At the very least, he didn't extort the crazy old freak for nothing. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed as he found his maternal grandfather, Luo Shenchuan. Wentian, was Senior Grim Reaper here earlier? Luo Shenchuan asked. But that senior has a strange personality and has already left. I learned some things from him. Qin Wentian told Luo Shenchuan about some things in the universe region. Luo Shenchuan's heart trembled as he felt waves of pressure. Grandfather, we need to spread some news and intentionally release some news to let the people of the supreme ancient immortal realms know of the ambitions of the universe region. In this way, those peak powers would have to be wary of cooperating with the Western world. Qin Wentian spoke. Luo Shenchuan nodded. Indeed, I will order people to do this. Emichim. Qin Wentian nodded. Although he was the founder of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, he didn't really care about the sect's affairs. Since he told this matter to his maternal grandfather, he would naturally handle it well. Chapter 1947. After Luo Shenchuan learned of the things that happened in the past from Qin Wentian, he ordered people to intentionally leak this news to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Very swiftly, many people in the supreme ancient immortal realms were discussing about this. The Western world was actually the main culprit behind the world-ending battle in ancient Azure Mystic back then. In addition, the Western world's goal was to unify the supreme ancient immortal realms and make everyone in the immortal realms worship the gods of the Western world. With regards to the veracity of this news, many people had a doubtful attitude. After all, the Western world was a sacred ground of the Buddhist sect. Also, the world-ending battle was simply too cruel. It was easier for people to accept the explanation that it was a war between the deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms and Azure Mystic. If one said that it was the Western world that caused the world-ending battle, that would be a conspiracy. However, there were also people who held a skeptical attitude. After all, everyone knew that not long ago, the Grim Reaper had descended upon the holy land of Buddhism with darkness. Black clouds covered the sky. Although no one knew what exactly happened there might really be something that no one knew. The attitude of the people of the supreme ancient immortal realms wasn't important. What was important was how the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms felt. They believed this news. In addition, they knew that this news was released by the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, and there was a high possibility that this news originated from Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan clearly had an extremely deep connection with the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper banished the various experts for him and even appeared in the Western world. If there was someone who was the clearest about what happened back then, that person would be none other than the Grim Reaper. He was someone who personally experienced it. Moreover, they knew a little about some of the abilities of the Buddhist sections. The more they knew, the more they believed the news. The various hegemonic powers also felt an immense pressure. This pressure originated from the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and the Western world. Long ago, when the seal on ancient Azure Mystic was loosened, there were already rumors saying that the future of the supreme ancient immortal realms would change. Right now, this great change seemed to be getting closer and closer. They all felt that time was pressing. No one could predict what would happen in the future and what sort of influence this change would have. But what they could do now was to make the most of their time and grow stronger. However, what made them feel somewhat pessimistic was that no matter what conditions they had, it was impossible for them to be compared to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and the Western world. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect relied on the Heaven Vault and had unparalleled potential. As for the Western world itself, it was already a hegemonic power. In the Qin clan, in a certain palace, Qin Zheng was resting with his eyes closed. The sound of footsteps rang out. Qin Zheng opened his eyes only to see his wife walking over. After that, her soft body leaned on him as she embraced him. "What's wrong?" Qin Zheng asked with a gentle voice. "Are we wrong?" She softly spoke, her words causing Qin Zheng's body to tremble. Staring at the beauty in his arms, his eyes flashed with astonishment. He was extremely clear of what sort of a character his wife was. If it was in the past, such words would never have come out of her mouth. But now, she actually said that they were wrong? Is the pressure too great? Qin Zheng gently caressed her cheeks and said softly, "Back then, if we didn't treat Qin Yuanfeng in such a manner, maybe the current Qin clan would already cause the other hegemonic powers to feel fear. In fact, the Qin clan might even be able to ascend to a brand new height. But now, because of us, the Qin clan ended up where it is today." Her voice was very low, as though she was questioning everything she did back then. Since things have already come to this, why is there a need to think about this? We didn't do anything wrong. Qin Zheng spoke. There was no right or wrong in the world. If one stood in their own perspective and thought, they would always be right because everyone was selfish. But even now, there's still no news of Dang. I'm afraid that the Qin clan will be destroyed in our hands. Her son was once their pride, the Heaven Son. His glory was boundless and he wanted to ascend to the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. But ever since Qin Yuanfeng's son, Qin Wenyan, appeared, everything changed. The wheels of history rolled on and their Qin clan and Heaven's Son, Qin Dangtian, were no longer the main characters of this era. They were no longer blessed by the heavens. All the glory was on that extraordinary young man. Dang will return, he definitely will. You know where he went. He will become even stronger than us. Qin Zheng's eyes were filled with determination. Qin Dangtian had experienced the darkest day of his life. Such a setback was sufficient to crush even heavenly deities. However, he still believed that his son would eventually rise up. All the setbacks, humiliation, and suffering would only temper his son and allow him to move forward, allowing him to grow stronger. She nodded as her beautiful eyes flashed with determination. She also believed that if Qin Wenyan was her son's destined enemy, Dang would definitely be able to defeat destiny. Once, Qin Wenyan treated Qin Wenyan as his destined enemy, yet Qin Dangtian didn't even spare him a glance. But now, Qin Zheng and his wife have already treated Qin Wenyan as Qin Dangtian's destined enemy. But could Qin Dangtian really be able to defeat destiny? The Che clan was like a golden world. The vast ancient clan was enveloped within a formation diagram. Within the Che clan, there was a world where countless experts gathered. In this world, there were countless divine formations. Also, there were countless people inscribing formations here, perfecting them. This entire world was like a gigantic smelting furnace. The heaven and earth smelting furnace in the center of the divine formations radiated an incomparably terrifying energy that gushed forth. In the air above this world, an incomparable radiance could be seen, as though a supreme divine weapon was being forged. At this moment, a few figures stood in the air. They were none other than the Che clan leader and several other heavenly deities. They stared ahead with sharp gazes. This world within the Che clan was their secret. For the people here, other than heavenly deities, no one else was allowed to leave. Once they entered, they wouldn't be able to leave. They would have to forge weapons here for all eternity. Also, they would only be able to forge a single divine weapon. However, all of them came here willingly. For generations of experts from the Che clan, there were many who were fanatical about weaponsmithing, treating weaponsmithing as their religion. Being able to witness the birth of an unparalleled divine weapon in their lifetime, even if they had to pay the price of death, they wouldn't hesitate. The Che clan was known as the #1 weaponsmithing aristocrat clan in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Using the strength of their entire clan, they created a secret world and forged a divine weapon. If the people of the world knew about this, they would surely be filled with terror. How terrifying would a divine weapon forged by them be? We have to speed up the pace. The Che clan leader spoke. The eyes of the heavenly deities beside him gleamed with sharpness. They all knew why their clan leader said this. The Che clan has already offended Qin Wenyan. The Western world was also extremely ambitious. None of them could be relied on. It was very dangerous. The supreme ancient immortal realms was about to change. In this storm that would arrive in the future, even for peak powers, they might suffer a calamity of destruction. Everyone from the various powers could sense it. During these hundreds of years, too many major events happened in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even ordinary people could sense that there would be a huge change in the supreme ancient immortal realms, let alone them. The experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms naturally had to do their best to survive the upcoming storm. Or perhaps they could grow stronger. Not only was the Qin clan and Che clan making preparations, those major powers with powerful foundations were all making preparations. Back then in the deity-level battle in the Qin clan, although all the major powers sent out their experts, it was clear that it was impossible for them to reveal all their trump cards. Hence, they still had some reservations. Mystic Region, Ziwei Divine Court. Today in the Ziwei Divine Court, 7 heavenly deities gathered together. This was the peak strength of the Ziwei Divine Court. The person in charge of the Ziwei Star Sovereign was an imposing-looking middle-aged man. He wore the Ziwei Divine Crown on his head and appeared incomparably noble. At this moment, the gaze of the Ziwei Star Sovereign turned to a pale-faced young man opposite him. He asked, "Yu Changkong, where have you been during these days?" "Star Sovereign, don't you already know? Why is there a need to ask?" Yu Changkong inclined his head, staring at the Ziwei Star Sovereign as he calmly replied. "Impudent! Yu Changkong, is this the attitude you should have when speaking to the Star Sovereign?" A heavenly deity berated. Back then, Yu Changkong devoured his master and replaced him. In order to prevent the loss of a heavenly deity, the Ziwei Star Sovereign decided to accept him. After all, heavenly deities were extremely important to the Ziwei Divine Court. It was impossible for them to give up on them so easily. But now, Yu Changkong already caused the Ziwei Star Sovereign to feel threatened. It was getting harder and harder for him to control Yu Changkong. From what he knew, after the Divine Ox clan was destroyed, Yu Changkong vanished. After that, Countless lives in the desolate region mysteriously vanished. The Ziwei Star Sovereign stared at Yu Changkong. His eyes were cold and imposing. Why is the restriction I placed on you growing weaker and weaker? Are you trying to undo it? Restriction? Yu Changkong mockingly laughed. After that, his body directly transformed into nothingness, transforming into a cloud of black mist that floated in the air. After that, a terrifying destructive might manifested from the black mist, as though something had shattered. The expression of the Ziwei Star Sovereign changed. After that, Yu Changkong's body reformed again as he smiled at him. Back then, although he accepted Yu Changkong, in order to control him, the Ziwei Star Sovereign planted an extremely powerful restriction on him. But now, that restriction was easily destroyed by Yu Changkong. How did you do it? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly stared ahead. Yu Changkong didn't reply. His white face had a mocking smile on it. After that, a terrifying black mist gathered behind him, transforming into a gigantic face. A mere minor Dao wants to restrict me? The gigantic face actually spoke, but its voice was different from Yu Changkong's. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court all stared at Yu Changkong. What technique is this? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly asked. This isn't a technique. He is a true life existence. Yu Changkong slowly spoke. You transformed him? Nope. Yu Changkong shook his head. During my cultivation, he was automatically born. He said that he is my past life. The hearts of the heavenly deities trembled. They could sense that Yu Changkong was different. He actually had a past life? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly asked. A bunch of ant-like heavenly deities. From today onwards, the Ziwei Divine Court will listen to my commands. That face coldly spoke. Yes, listen to my commands. Yu Changkong coldly replied. What's the difference between you and me? That face spoke again. You are you, I am me. Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong was still stubborn. Who is he? The expression of the Ziwei Star Sovereign changed unceasingly. He stared ahead. That gigantic face was staring at him, causing him to feel a faint pressure. Chapter 1948. Who am I? An evil smile appeared on the face of the gigantic face. After that, the face expanded unceasingly, growing larger and larger. In the air, that terrifying face caused people to feel fear. A wave of black fog flowed, and after that, the gigantic face actually disintegrated, transforming into countless heads that appeared in different locations in the world, all of them laughing uproariously at the same time. Can you guess who I am? The countless heads roared at the same time. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court all felt their hearts pounding. At this moment, they had a feeling that they were in a world of heads. There was no sky and earth around them, only countless man-eating heads. The Ziwei Star Sovereign's brows were tightly furrowed. In his past life, in his mind, he was thinking about the ancient people. After that, a legend appeared in his memories. His heart pounded madly as his calm eyes gradually turned into a look of horror. Have you guessed it? That head laughed evilly. In that case, will you submit or become my nourishment? The Ziwei Star Sovereign stood up. Under the shocked gazes of the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court, he actually bowed to the countless heads. The Ziwei Star Sovereign pays his respects to the Divine Sovereign. I'm willing to obey your command. Divine Sovereign? When the heavenly deities heard this, they also pondered for a moment. After that, their hearts trembled as a look of disbelief appeared on their faces. Yu Changkong's past life was actually him? No wonder Yu Changkong could comprehend an evil art and devour his master. For the sake of cultivation, he was willing to sacrifice his humanity. So, it turned out that it was him. Their hearts trembled unceasingly. All of them stood up and bowed. We pay our respects to the Divine Sovereign. The Divine Sovereign no longer exists. My current body is him. You guys should pay your respects to him. That evil head laughed evilly. He stared at Yu Changkong only to see Yu Changkong calmly sitting there. He didn't know who he was in his past life. Before this, when this fellow appeared, he also jumped in fright. But now, he gradually accepted it. In addition, he also knew many things. He didn't reject the identity of his past life, but he was still Yu Changkong. In this life, he wanted to control everything in his hands. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court stared at Yu Changkong with complicated expressions on their faces. However, they were heavenly deities after all, and they quickly accepted this reality. From the rumors, they knew how evil and terrifying this existence before them was. If they didn't submit, this existence might really devour them whole. As for resisting, the Ziwei Star Sovereign only had such a thought for an instant. After that, he extinguished it. Although he was strong, he had no hope against this baleful god. Since he has awakened, another calamity would surely descend upon the supreme ancient immortal realms. You are the Ziwei Star Sovereign. In that case, you guys can address me as Moon God. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court nodded and bowed. I pay my respects to Moon God. Yu Changkong nodded. Let's make our preparations. It's about time to settle the grudges between the mystic region. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court felt their hearts trembling. Was Qin Wenyin going to act against the great devil divine palace and the heavenly deity mountain? At this moment, the Ziwei Star Sovereign felt extremely complicated in his heart. This baleful god's reincarnation actually appeared in their Ziwei divine court in the mystic region. He didn't know if this was a blessing or a calamity. The Ziwei divine court would become even stronger than before. There was no need to doubt this. However, the reputation of this baleful god back then was simply too terrifying. No one knew what he would transform the Ziwei divine court into. Moon God, this time around, who do you plan to act against first? The Ziwei Star Sovereign asked. The heavenly deity mountain is weak. Let's deal with them first. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. During these years in the mystic region, the conflict between the three hegemonic powers had always existed. Right now, Yu Changkong controlled the Ziwei divine court and was finally preparing to act against the heavenly deity mountain. Send out a message first, saying that the Ziwei divine court will pay a visit to the heavenly deity mountain. By doing so, the heavenly deity mountain will be wary and gather all their experts back. Not a single one will be left out. Yu Changkong's eyes flashed with coldness. In this era, numerous experts were rising up. Once, Heaven's Son was someone he could only look up to. But now, his mortal enemy, Qin Wendian, was the controller of the Heaven Vault. In that case, what about him? Although he was born from his previous life, he needed to grow stronger as well. He headed to the desolate region and devoured countless experts. In that case, it was time for him to act against some heavenly deities. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court felt their hearts trembling. Sending out a message first, causing the heavenly deity mountain to be on guard, giving them time to gather all their experts. How ruthless! This was in line with his usual style of doing things. No one knew what sort of terrifying impact this conversation between the heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court would have on the mystic region. The changes in the supreme ancient immortal realms started from the desolate region and the heaven region, gradually spreading out. Several days later, a message was sent to the heavenly deity mountain. The Ziwei Star Sovereign would lead the heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court to pay a visit. After receiving the message, the heavenly deity mountain acted as though they were facing a great enemy. They gathered all their heavenly deities and prepared to face the storm. At this moment, the heavenly deity mountain had no idea what this message meant to them. After the great devil divine palace received the news, they paid close attention to the movements of the heavenly deity mountain. Did the Ziwei divine court want to declare war? However, this matter didn't cause too great of a commotion in the supreme ancient immortal realms. After all, the attention of the supreme ancient immortal realms was still focused on the Western world and the Heaven Vault. Although the battle in the mystic region was a major matter, it was sufficient to cause the supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble. But now, it was no longer able to attract the attention of the supreme ancient immortal realms. At most, they would pay attention to it and see what would happen next. At this moment, no one could predict what would happen next. Qin Wenyan didn't idle around. He naturally understood that the supreme ancient immortal realms hasn't unleashed their full strength yet. In addition to the pressure from the Western world, he had to grow as fast as possible. Also, he mustn't be alone. At this moment in the heaven vault, many floating palaces in the starry space shone with resplendent light. It was like they were all in an independent dimension. Qin Wenyan's body was right in front of one of the palaces. His body radiated the might of his Tao art as the light around him flashed unceasingly, gradually forming a small independent dimension. Ancient runes appeared around Qin Wenyan, imprinting them into the minor world. The runes contained a Tao art that could change the heavenly Tao laws of this minor world. In this case, there's no need for me to maintain it. The flow of time in this minor world can automatically stabilize itself. Qin Wenyan spoke in a low voice. After that, he took a step out and moved towards another direction. Gradually, in the heaven vault, many such minor worlds appeared in the floating palaces. Luo Shenchuan, the Kuan sovereign and the other heavenly deities all felt extremely shocked when they entered. Qin Wenyan already didn't need to use energy to maintain it. He could create a minor world that could exist eternally, changing the laws of time. In the future, if one cultivated in there, the flow of time would be different compared to the outside world. Wenyan, how is the flow of time in here? Luo Shenchuan walked to Qin Wenyan's side and asked. About 100 times. Right now, I can only maintain this speed. Qin Wenyan spoke. Luo Shenchuan nodded. 100 times was already very impressive. In the future, if one cultivated for 100 years in here, it would merely be a year in the outside world. This was extremely important to the Qin heavenly divine sect. Awesome! The heaven-devouring demon sovereign walked over. The effect of changing the flow of time is limited to us old fellows. But to the current Qin heavenly divine sect, it's extremely valuable. Qin Wenyan nodded lightly. The heaven-devouring demon sovereign and the other heavenly deities were all existences that have lived for countless years. If they wanted to grow stronger, they couldn't just depend on time alone. In truth, although Qin Wenyan's ability was rare, there were still some hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms that had such secret realms. Didn't his inspiration originate from the time realm of the Convention of the Myriad Realms? The time realm was jointly controlled by the hegemonic powers of the mystic region. However, to Qin Wenyan and some of his good friends like the young Jun Mengchen, Little Rascal, and Princess Kitamura, they were different. Their comprehension abilities were very strong and what they lacked the most was time. Hence, secret realms that could change the flow of time were extremely valuable. I still need to create more secret realms like this on my constellations. If you guys have any needs, you can tell me. Qin Wenyan laughed. The people around him nodded their heads. Although right now they all felt a heavy pressure, at the same time, they also saw a glimmer of hope. Everyone casually chatted. At this moment, Luo Shenchuan's brows suddenly furrowed as he furrowed his brows. Grandfather, what's wrong? Qin Wenyan discovered Luo Shenchuan's abnormality and asked. Luo Shenchuan inclined his head and stared at Qin Wenyan. Earlier, he received a voice transmission from the outside and learned of an extremely shocking piece of news. The heavenly deity mountain was annihilated. Luo Shenchuan spoke. Qin Wenyan's heart trembled. Even with his current status, when he heard that a hegemonic power was annihilated, he still felt shock in his heart. Ziwei Divine Court? Qin Wenyan heard that a few days ago, the Ziwei Divine Court wanted to pay a visit to the heavenly deity mountain. Amichim, Luo Shenchuan nodded. Back then when news of the mystic region spread out, no one expected that the heavenly deity mountain would be annihilated. What does the Ziwei Divine Court want to do? The heaven-devouring demon sovereign frowned, feeling somewhat puzzled. Right now, the entire supreme ancient immortal realms was wary of the heaven vault and the powerful Western world. The Ziwei Divine Court actually wanted to annihilate the heavenly deity mountain at such a time? This matter was extremely strange. I don't know. The news said that the heavenly deity mountain collapsed and was razed to flat ground. There are countless skeletons on the mountain, turning it into a land of death. No one survived. Luo Shenchuan slowly spoke. Qin Wentian's expression flickered. For some reason, the person he thought of at this moment was actually Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong was none other than one of the heavenly deities of the Ziwei divine court. No one was clearer than Qin Wentian on how sinister this man was. Chapter 1949. The destruction of the heavenly deity mountain caused a huge wave of commotion in the supreme ancient immortal realms. No one expected that the invitation letter sent by the Ziwei divine court would lead to such a terrifying ending. In the mystic region, the three hegemonic powers, the Ziwei divine court, Great Devil divine palace, and the heavenly deity mountain, have existed for countless years. Although the heavenly deity mountain was slightly weaker, it was still a hegemonic power after all and had some foundations. The three hegemonic powers didn't dare to start a true war of annihilation against each other. After all, from everyone's point of view, even if the Ziwei divine court could win against the heavenly deity mountain, it was impossible for them to kill all the heavenly deities here. In the current era where the Heaven Vault Alliance and the Western world were at their peak, no one would have thought that the Ziwei divine court would start a war of annihilation against the heavenly deity mountain at this moment. In addition, the Ziwei divine court completely annihilated the heavenly deity mountain. After the divine Ox clan, another hegemonic power in the supreme ancient immortal realms was destroyed. This caused the experts in the supreme ancient immortal realms to feel a sense of alarm. Even hegemonic powers might cease to exist in a single night. In this chaotic era, if one wasn't strong enough, they would fall and become a stepping stone for others. A formless pressure enveloped the experts in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The war of annihilation in the mystic region caused their sense of danger to grow increasingly intense. At this moment, in the ruins of the heavenly deity mountain in the mystic region, many experts arrived. These people were from the various powers, and among them, there were experts from the Great Devil Divine Palace. A group of devil cultivators stood together and stared at the ruins before them. Once, there was an incomparably majestic divine mountain here. But now, the divine mountain was reduced to rubble and even dust. How did the Ziwei divine court do this? Someone asked, as though he was mumbling to himself. No one knew, even the Great Devil Divine Palace didn't know. When the Ziwei divine court sent the invitation letter to the heavenly deity mountain, they were already paying attention to this matter. Also, there were experts who came to the heavenly deity mountain back then. However, on that day, a terrifying black fog appeared on the heavenly deity mountain, enveloping the entire mountain, isolating everything. After that, a terrifying commotion could be heard from the black fog, as though the heavens and earth were collapsing. After that, the black fog frenziedly expanded, enveloping the entire battlefield in the sky. No one knew what kind of battle was happening inside. When everything ended, the black mist dissipated, leaving behind a stretch of ruins and corpses strewn all over the place. It was a ghastly sight. Many of those corpses were mutilated and headless. Up until now, they were still in the ruins below, uncleaned by anyone. Many experts in the air felt a wave of disgust. Even if they were experts who had seen countless slaughters, they still felt extremely uncomfortable when they saw this hell on earth. Right now, if one were to say who felt the greatest pressure, it would undoubtedly be the Great Devil Divine Palace. They had always been in conflict with the Ziwei Divine Court, and now, the heavenly deity mountain was destroyed by the Ziwei Divine Court. In that case, would the Great Devil Divine Palace, which was also in the mystic region, be attacked by the Ziwei Divine Court one day? The possibility of this was extremely high. Since the Ziwei Divine Court had the ability to destroy the heavenly deity mountain so easily, they definitely had some unknown methods. Great sin. Someone sighed. How many people did the heavenly deity mountain have? It was hard to calculate. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the scene below was hell. The Ziwei Divine Court is too crazy. Someone sighed. Even in the entire history of the supreme ancient immortal realms, the number of such hegemonic powers being annihilated was extremely few. Everyone deeply understood what it meant by, common people are like weeds. When a true deity-level battle erupted, ordinary people were no different from ants. Many people left, feeling extremely uncomfortable when they saw such a hellish scene. There were also people who acted to clean up, using powerful energy to cause the earth to tremble. After that, countless corpses were buried underground. Ever since Qin Wenyan learned of the news of the heavenly deity mountain being destroyed from his maternal grandfather, Luo Shenchuan, he learned more details. Although he already knew that this world wasn't a benevolent one and the battles between hegemonic powers were extremely cruel, he still felt that it was a little too cruel to kill countless people. These people weren't demons like the Divine Ox clan, they were humans, the same as them. What role did Yu Changkong play in this? Qin Wenyan had no way to know, but he definitely had a connection to this. The power of the black fog, wasn't it related to Yu Changkong? Qin Wenyan gave the order to gather information on Yu Changkong's recent movements. He discovered that recently, many people and demonic beasts in the desolate region disappeared and were all faintly related to Yu Changkong. Qin Wenyan instantly thought of an evil art. Yu Changkong was using the lives of people to cultivate his evil art. It was very possible that he had comprehended an evil art similar to the one in the world of reincarnation. Yu Changkong was someone who would do anything for the sake of strength. There was nothing Yu Changkong wouldn't do. But just like the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms, he also didn't understand why the Ziwei Divine Court could destroy the heavenly deity mountain. Qin Wenyan could also sense that the current supreme ancient immortal realms would change sooner or later. In truth, if it wasn't for the Grim Reaper appearing and temporarily suppressing the Western world and the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms, he wouldn't be so carefree now. The only thing he could do now was to improve himself. Temporarily suppressing all thoughts, Qin Wenyan entered closed-door seclusion in the Heaven Vault. Also, many people around him also entered closed-door seclusion. It was rare for the crazy old freak to fight for a period of peace for them, causing the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms to not dare to antagonize them. They naturally wanted to take this opportunity to strengthen themselves. If the supreme ancient immortal realms changed in the future, it would be even harder for them to deal with them. Hence, the situation in the outside world changed. Many people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect entered the Heaven Vault to cultivate, including those around Qin Wenyan. However, there were still people taking turns to guard the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. Once there were any changes, they would immediately inform Qin Wenyan. Time slowly flowed by. To the supreme ancient immortal realms, a period of 2 years was truly too short. There wouldn't be too great of a ripple. Ever since the Ziwei Divine Court destroyed the heavenly deity mountain, the great Devil Divine Palace has been on high alert, constantly guarding against the Ziwei Divine Court. However, the Ziwei Divine Court didn't seem to have any plans to attack them immediately. They remained silent for a period of time, like they weren't the ones who destroyed the heavenly deity mountain back then. However, to the Heaven Vault, a huge change happened during these 2 years. There were more people who broke through to the deity realm, and there were more than one of them. Right now, the close friends and family of Qin Wenyan, Little Rascal, Jun Mingchen, Chiyu, Princess Kitamura, Bai Qing, Nenfeng Yaoyue and the others, have all broken through to the deity realm. All of them were people guided by the wills of heavenly deities. In addition to their own outstanding talent and comprehension abilities, as well as the excellent cultivation environment in the Heaven Vault, all of these advantages stacked together. Most probably, no other hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms would be able to compete with them in terms of cultivation conditions. This was why so many heavenly deities appeared. Naturally, other than all of these, there was also time. The secret realm created by Qin Wenyan gave them time. Although only 2 years had passed in the outside world, in truth, they had cultivated for over 200 years before they had today's results. With regards to the changes that happened in the Heaven Vault, the people in the outside world had no idea. If they knew that the Heaven Vault was producing heavenly deities in batches, most probably, their wariness would be even more intense. It has only been 2+ years. If they were given more time to develop, only heaven knew how many heavenly deities would appear in the future. If this continued, most probably at that time, Other than those at the very peak, the Heaven Vault Alliance wouldn't be able to compare to the Western world. Also, the Heaven Vault had the protection of the Grim Reaper. Headmaster Yi also took good care of Qin Wenyan. Other than those people before, there was also another cultivator from the Tiandao Sacred Academy who broke through in the Heaven Vault. Back then, this person was a teacher who took good care of Qin Wenyan. His name was Divine Sound. He was once an expert on the Dao-seeking rankings and had high hopes of breaking through to the heavenly deity realm. Now, he managed to break through in the cultivation environment of the Heaven Vault, becoming a heavenly deity. At this moment, Divine Sound was beside Qin Wenyan. He stared at the Heaven Vault and sighed, "Wenyan, I have to thank you for being able to break through so quickly." Although his comprehension abilities were very strong, in truth, he had already cultivated for many years and needed time to consolidate his foundation. Being able to break through within a few hundred years was inextricably linked to the Heaven Vault. If it wasn't for Qin Wenyan controlling the Heaven Vault, it would be impossible for him to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. There was no such person who would be so generous and selfless. "Senior brother, if you say this, I'm going to be angry." Qin Wenyan pretended to be angry as he glared at Divine Sound. Back then in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, his senior brother took good care of him and allowed Divine Sound to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. This was nothing much. To him, it wasn't much. But to Divine Sound, it was different. The heavenly deity realm. How many lives were there in the supreme ancient immortal realms? And how many heavenly deities were there? This was the peak that everyone in the world pursued, but how many people would be able to step into it? Right now, Qin Wenyan managed to reach this realm he yearned for even in his dreams. This feeling was indescribable. "All right, I won't be polite with you." Divine Sound laughed. He glanced at the many secret realms in the Heaven Vault and asked, "Given 100 more years, how many heavenly deities can you produce?" As he spoke, even he himself shook his head, not daring to imagine. 100 years to a secret realm was equivalent to 10,000 years. The Heaven Vault would produce an army of heavenly deities. This was also the reason why the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms were so anxious to join forces to attack Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan's potential was too terrifying. 100 years is too long. Qin Wenyan shook his head. With 10,000 years of cultivation, what cultivation realm could he reach? From the time he started cultivating until now, it had only been 1,000 years. Also, he felt that the supreme ancient immortal realms wouldn't be able to give him such a long time. Although 100 years wasn't considered too long in the supreme ancient immortal realms, and if it was in the past, it would be something that could be accomplished in the blink of an eye. But now, the situation in the supreme ancient immortal realms was too sensitive. "Wenyan." At this moment, a weak voice rang out in Qin Wenyan's mind. Qin Wenyan's eyes flashed as he spoke, "Senior brother, I have something to do. I will make a move first." As the sound of his voice faded, he directly vanished. This caused Divine Sound's eyes to flash. Qin Wenyan was in such a hurry. Could it be that something major happened? In a secret realm, Princess Kitamura was weakly lying there. A beam of light descended as Qin Wenyan appeared before her. He squatted down as a look of worry appeared in his eyes. "What's going on?" Qin Wenyan sat on the ground and helped Princess Kitamura up, allowing her to lean on him. At the same time, his divine sense entered Princess Kitamura's body to investigate. Very swiftly, he sensed an extremely terrifying destructive energy ravaging through Princess Kitamura's soul. It was like her soul had been frozen solid. "It's because of my own cultivation." Princess Kitamura's body trembled. She felt extremely cold. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.